Perez. And the co-main event sees Cynthia Calvillo take on one of the most UFC dominant champions in Valentina Chefchenko for the Women's Flyweight Championship. I'm Adam Catterall. It's an absolute pleasure to be joining you for BT Sport Open Mat Live as we're going to be bringing the UFC 255 weigh-ins. As you can see, joining me as ever, the one and only Mr. Nick Peet, and the man whose name is on the tin, the king of the hill, Mr. Dan Hardy. Gents, how are we? We well?
All good. This is going to be fun.
This weigh-in's a really interesting one, given that the main event and co-main event, obviously having titles on the line, has 3 of the 4 contenders involved in those fights having weight issues in the past. We've seen Cynthia Calvillo fail weight on 2 separate occasions. The champion Deiveson Figueiredo in the main events also failed recently as well, as has Alex Perez. Dan, squeaky bum time on the scales today, mate. Are they all going to make weight? Are we all going to get title fights?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. The 2 fighters coming in challenging for the belts are the ones really that we're most concerned about. And they have to be on the money. They have to be on championship weight 125. Otherwise, they're not eligible to win the belt. They'll still probably fight. You know, most likely the fight will still go ahead. But, you know, even if they win, they're able to defeat the champion. The belt is not theirs. So the pressure is definitely on the line to, you know, they've got to get on the scales absolutely on championship weight. So, yeah, we've got to be prepared.
Speaking of weight, Nick, Mike Perry, is he trolling us all, or is he seriously having a little bit of trouble hitting 170, do you think?
Listen, under any other circumstances, I'd say, it's just Mike Perry being Mike Perry. He's trolling us a little bit and he's just trying to get us all a little bit excited and get us talking about him. But unfortunately, because of where Mike Perry is right now, because of the fact that, you know, it's been well publicized that he's going to have his girlfriend and one of his buddies in his corner, and he freely admits that his pal that's in his corner has got no real association with fight sports before. So you just don't know. You don't know whether in those last few hours, Dan will know better than me. Sometimes when a weight cut is tough, it can play on your mind a little bit. And if you haven't got somebody in that corner with the kind of experience that most corner teams would have, if he's just got his girlfriend and his pal there, and there's no one there reassuring him, there's no one there guiding him, there's no one there with experience telling him about the weight cut, telling him things will progress, telling him things will get better, then you know, he's going to get let loose on social media. So we genuinely don't know. He's never missed weight before, so you'd like to think it won't be an issue. But right now, what you tell me, what is going on inside Mike Perry's head? No idea.
Well, we're going to find out in 10 minutes. So thank you very much for joining us here on the BT Sport YouTube channel. Make sure you stick with us all the way through it, because for the next 2 hours, 10 minutes or so, we're going to be calling all these boys and girls onto the scales, and hopefully they'll all make weight and we'll all go away with big smiles on our faces knowing what fights we have got lined up for you live on BT Sport tomorrow night. I'll tell you a little bit more information about the broadcast times for the main events. But let's get stuck into the fighters. Dan, we'll start with you. The champion, the recent champion in the men's flyweight division, Deiveson Figueiredo. He's had a bit of a topsy-turvy year. Like I said, he missed weight earlier on this year, didn't he, against Joey Benavidez, but he came back, made weight, became the champion, and now has kind of set this flyweight division on fire.
Well, he has, you know, especially because of his fighting style. I mean, what we've always needed in the flyweight division is someone that can, you know, end fights quickly. And he's beaten Joe Benavidez twice. I mean, obviously the first time that there was the issue with the weight, you know, he was slightly over championship weight, so he wasn't eligible to win the belt. But that did allow him to prove himself twice against Joe Benavidez. And arguably the second time, even more impressive, given the fact that he came in on championship weight. He was able to beat him quicker, more impressively. You know, and you know, he's a finisher. He's got that kind of style where he goes hunting for the finish, and that's what we need in this division. You know, that's been the criticism of the flyweight division for a long while. Is, you know, we've got, you know, lots of 5-round fights, lots of decisions. Figueiredo turns that whole thing on its head. Like, he hunts people down. He carries his hands at his waist. He relies on head movement and footwork to get out of the way of any danger from his opponents. And he's a heavy-handed fighter. You know, and we all know that if they decide that they don't want to deal with his striking, they run straight into his jiu-jitsu games. You know, guillotines first, and then all different kinds of arm bars and rear naked chokes. He's a lethal individual at, you know, every stage of the fight.
The man that he's up against this weekend, Nick, is Alex Perez, a well-worthy contender. And in fact, it's quite a big weekend for Dana White and his contender series, because Alex is the first person to come off that TV show to be fighting for UFC gold.
He absolutely is, and he was preparing for this event anyway. He was due to fight Moreno on the undercard in what was pretty much a final eliminator to get a shot at the flyweight title. But I really like this fight for Perez. He's had a month's notice as well. It's not been thrown on him at the last minute. Cody Garbrandt being unavailable has meant that Perez gets this opportunity, but he's had a lot more fights than the champion. He's got a lot more experience. He's also done the 5-round distance and won previously in his career as well, something that the champion has never done before. And listen, I know styles make fights, but he's coming into the fight after a big win, a first-round finish of Josia Formiga last time out, which showed another level to his game, that real leg kick and striking game. And Formiga's the guy that has got a previous win over the champion, So I really like this fight for Perez. Obviously, Figueiredo is going to start as favourite. The bookies will amplify that. But Figueiredo has looked great against Joe Benavidez twice. Prior to that, he looked good, man. Yeah, he looked like a talent, but he didn't look like a world beater. So, listen, don't be shocked if we've got a new champion come Sunday morning. That's all I'm going to say.
I think the main contender as well could be decided at UFC 255 as well off the back of this title fight, because at the top of the prelims, we've got an absolute cracker. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, because I know that Dan has picked it for a possible bonus check maybe coming their way, because it's a cracking fight. Let's get stuck into the co-main, shall we? Valentina Chefchenko. Dan, for you, one of the most dominant champions that the UFC has?
Yeah, without a doubt. A very well-balanced skill set, a very high fight IQ. Really the full package when it comes to an MMA fighter. She's got a very well thought out game. She's very precise in what she does, in the way she goes about things. She decides, the route of least resistance, and then she takes it, whether that's to ground somebody and control them and beat them up from side control, or whether it's to knock them out on the feet. She has the skills to apply, a finish wherever she wants it. And that's really the difficult thing when you're facing Shevchenko, is that, you're not really deciding where the fight takes place, because usually she's able to control it, throughout, no matter what range it's at. With Jennifer Maia, she's got someone that's aggressive, that's got good striking, that has also looked vulnerable on the ground in previous fights against some of the high-level veterans, fighters like Liz Carmouche. But she's a scrappy individual, that she's got a high work rate. She's got good head movement as well. So, being able to get off the center line of the initial attack and then throw counters back with power. And we also saw her submission game against Joe Calderwood in her last fight as well. And now she's dealing with a completely different animal on the ground with Valentina Chefchenko. But she is able to hold her ground there. She is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So even if she can't get on top and start controlling from the ground, she will at least know what's happening to her and be able to slow the progress down. But she has a lot of experience as well coming into this one, so she needs to use that experience. And as you can see, the slight reach disadvantage, she can close distance and start throwing heavy combinations as quickly as possible. I think that's the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, Dan, watch this. Watch Nick absolutely hate what I'm about to ask him. Right, come on, son. I want you to try and make a case for Jennifer Maia, given the fact that you absolutely love Valentina Shevchenko, and we were kind of on the verge of Joe Calderwood getting this fight, but because of the last performance and Jennifer Maia getting that armbar finish, she finds herself in the position where she's fighting for UFC gold. Can she win it? Go on, Nick.
No. Listen, at the end of the day, she's the most worthy challenger. She's going to give her best shot. But as we spoke about, as Dan's just mentioned then, I just can't see how she wins this fight. She can't stay at range. Valentina picks her off. She's got to get up close. Guess what? Valentina's sensational in the clinch. She loves throwing elbows. She loves trips. She loves dominating on the ground. I genuinely cannot see how she pulls this off, Jennifer Maia, unless Valentina makes a mistake, falls into a submission, or somehow just runs into a clean shot. But she doesn't do that. Shevchenko doesn't run forward. She's a counter striker, one of the best counter strikers in the business. So it's so hard to make a case for Jennifer Maia, right? Can we go back to Perez? I can make a case for Perez again if you want.
Listen, Jennifer Maia's got to make weight first, hasn't she? Because I know that she made weight for the judge.
Last three she missed.
Absolutely that. And that is why we're here today, to find that out. Because if she doesn't do that, then the title's kind of irrelevant. It's not going to be on the line for her, and it'll only be there for the champ. Dan, come on. You can make an argument for her, mate. If she hits the scales, if she makes weight, how does she go about beating Valentina Shefchenko?
Okay. Right. If I'm in Jennifer Maia's corner, I'm telling her that she needs to be cautious in her route into the clinch, but that's her best place in this fight. Closing distance down, trying to get her up against the fence, use the fact that she's got good head position and good pressure in the clinch to, make it uncomfortable for her. Times when I've seen Valentina Chefchenko uncomfortable has been, say, the Juliana Pena fight when she was up against the fence. Pena had that really horrible head position under the chin, and she was working good clinch work. She was taken down in that position. Now, I'm not saying Jennifer Maia should take her down, but I'm saying that getting into that position it enables her to use head position, which kind of nullifies some of the throws that Shevchenko has in the clinch. Then she's able to, work those shots to the body, work some knees, kind of be mean on the inside and rough her up, but not deal with that long range game that Shevchenko's got, but also not get so close that she gets taken down and then has to deal with the submission game. It's it's really a Goldilocks zone that she has to kind of control, and that's in the clinch with head position.
There you go, Nick. There you go. You did
it. No chance.
Listen, the prelims on BT Sport for this fantastic event get underway at 1 a.m. BT Sport 1 is the channel that you need to be checking out all this action. The main event, the main card, gets underway from 3 a.m. in the morning. There's a couple of fights just before we get stuck into these weigh-ins because we're about 3 minutes away before the live action, before we cross over to Las Vegas to see people hitting the scales. Nick, I just want to come to you for the fight that kicks off the main card at 3 a.m. involving Scotland's own Paul Craig. What a great fight.
It's a sensational fight for Paul Craig, and it's just deserves really, because he had a strange start for his UFC career, and he really didn't think he was going to stick around for too long. But then he had that incredible last-minute submission victory in London, and since then he's really hit the ground running with it. And he's the performance against Shogun in Brazil. You've got to do something special to get a decision against a legend like Shogun in Brazil. And I thought he did deserve to get his hand raised that night. But luckily enough, he does get the second opportunity here. All credit to the UFC. They could have steered Shogun in a different direction, but they've given Paul Craig what he deserves, and that's a rematch with the icon, with the former champion. And I just think this is, timing is everything. And Shogun, even though right now, Shogun's having a real Indian summer in his career. After he lost the belt to John Jones, he looked like he was on a real skid, a real demise, looked like he was heading out of the sport. But look at him now. I think he's won one of his last 6 or 7. So, Shogun's having a real career revival. I don't know what it is with these veteran Brazilians like Glover Teixeira as well, having a real comeback. But he's a genuine threat in this light heavyweight division. If Shogun can get a big high-profile win here, because he's Shogun, he will get a big eliminator fight as well. He could well even be thrown in with Teixeira as a final eliminator while Adesanya steps up and keeps that belt busy. That's how close Paul Craig is right now. If he can get his arm raised here Sunday morning against Shogun, he could be he could well be a title contender by the back end of 2021.
Cracking, man. That's the one that kicks off the main card for us at 3 a.m. You can just see a bit of live footage here from Las Vegas. I kind of love these dry runs when they get people, the UFC staff, to go and stand on the stage. They can't help but do a bit of a pause, can they? We see it sometimes on Fight Night as well when they're doing the dry run of the octagon walk. You know what I mean? You got to live that moment. Get the Rocky music on and pretend that you're a fighter. I love it. Dan, you've picked out the fight at the top of the prelims as a potential fight of the night. Moreno-Royval. You would think the winner of this is next in line for a shot at the gold.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. These are both young kids that have got good experience in their mixed martial arts career. They're both exciting. They both chase a finish. They both love being in the moment in a fight, and that's evident when you watch them compete. Brandon Moreno, he stands with his knuckles up. He's grinning through a bloody smile. He's just an exciting fighter to watch, and then
Figueiredo
versus we've got a few coming through.
Not messing about, are we?
No, straight in.
Look at this. Alex Perez, it looks like, that's taking.
There we go. I'll continue in a second.
No problem, my man. Well, here we go. Thank you very much for joining us here on the BT Sport YouTube feed. It is Alex Perez there, getting ready. Big statement from the challenger. This is what we like to see, boys. You know what I mean? No messing about. Let's get on the scales. I'll shut up now and we'll find out exactly where he's at and whether he's on weight and whether he's involved in a championship fight tomorrow night.
He's on. He's missed weight 5 times in his career, though, but this means he's on.
124 and a half, the official weight of the title challenger, Alex Perez.
There's my guy. There's the upset right there. There's the upset.
That's a heck of a statement, that, Dan, isn't it? 124 and a half, first on the scales, no messing about. As soon as the clock ticked over, he was there ready to go.
Yeah, and that means, he can, now the pressure's on Figueiredo because, obviously, he missed weight in the first Benavidez fight as well. So the pressure's also on him to make weight.
Alan Jaban.
Oh, Alan Jaban.
This is top of the early prelims, Alan Jaban. This is a welterweight contest. He's taking on Jared Gooden. Looks like me with me top off. There's Alan Jaban.
Yeah, I was going to say. UFC fighter and model at the same time. He's just showing off now, isn't he?
That's it. It is,
one of my old sparring partners, Alan Jaban. A very talented southpaw. I worked with him quite a bit before the Marcus Davis fight because he's a good southpaw fighter, but he progressed real quick. Black belt and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well.
170 and a half
for Alan Jaban.
You don't get your picture taken with him after sparring, do you, Dan? You know what I mean? That'll get some Instagram likes.
No. I don't need to be standing next to that. He's a good-looking fella.
It's always interesting at this particular point of a weigh-in, isn't it? I mean, we did the live show from Abu Dhabi and we could see the row of fighters, obviously all socially distanced, waiting to come on to the scales, wanting to make that a nice early statement. You can always see the happy ones, the ones that have obviously had a nice cut, the ones that just want to get to the breakfast bar straight away and start rehydrating. So these first 5-10 minutes tell me a lot as to where they're at physically and mentally.
Tomorrow night in the UFC's welterweight division, Tim the Dirty Bird Means.
Probably the greatest nickname in the UFC. Dirty Bird Tim Means. He's the guy that is in the opposite corner to Mike Perry. Let's see where he's at.
171 pounds, the official weight.
I fancy him.
Tim Means.
I said in the build-up that I really fancied Tim Mean. I think this is a horrible matchup for Mike Perry. Rearranged, obviously, after Robbie Lawler pulled out. I think it's a terrible fight for Perry. I really fancy Tim Means to do a number on him. I really do.
Live on pay-per-view tomorrow
Big
night
slick
in the UFC
southpaw.
Women's Flyweight Division, the number 4 ranked contender, Cynthia Calvillo.
Here we go. Cynthia Calvillo. She's taking on Catherall Chookagian. And again, this is a real... She turned up in her jeans. I thought she turned up in a night out stuff there. You know what I mean? Nice little blouse and jeans. I thought she must be on her way for a bit of a night out. But this is a real test for her against Catterall Chookagian, who's obviously already earlier this year been in for a world title fight. Let's see where she's at weight wise, because this could have serious repercussions for who faces Valentina Chefchenko next.
124.
Big statement.
The official weight for Cynthia Calvillo.
Making championship weight. I know she's a former strawweight, but there's always a good message when you make championship weight. She hasn't got to, but she did. Just letting the world know, I can do it and I'm ready. I want to win. I get a big performance against Chookagian. I want the champion next. I like it.
Yeah. And she's on a 3-fight win streak as well, whereas, Chookagian's coming off that really disappointing loss to Andrade. And that's got to be a thorn in her side because that was a body shot as well. That's not like, you watch the fight back after getting knocked out and remember what happened then. Like, she lived that, you know what I mean? She's going to be really motivated to get a win.
Valentina Chefchenko.
No messing.
Oh, here we go.
Here's the champ. Here she is.
Oh, here we go. Calm yourself, Nick.
Yeah,
Get the red
settle
carpet
down,
out. Where's the
settle down. Co-main event, Valentina Chefchenko taking on Jennifer Maia. Just a little note, Jennifer Maia has missed weight on 2 separate occasions in her last 3 fights. Going to be interesting to see if she hits the scales. Valentina Chefchenko looking incredible,
Doesn't miss weight.
as she always does. There you go.
The official weight
There
for the
we
champion,
go.
Valentina Chefchenko.
Technically, for me, Dan, the best female fighter in the UFC, any weight division, for me, she's technically absolutely superb.
Yeah. The difference between her and Amanda Nunes is a technical thing. Nunes is...
Her sister's here.
There we go.
Here's her sister. They do everything.
Cut weight together.
Exactly. Cut weight together, work out together, synchronize together, everything together. They're going for breakfast in a minute together. That's why they've turned up at the exact same time so they can crack on down to the buffet. Here we go. Antonina, by the way, is in the early prelims. She's taking on Ariane Lipski. It's the fight after Nicholas Dolby and Rodriguez. Might be a bit of claret on the mat after that fight. Yeah. Hopefully they clean it up so these girls don't slip about. But here we go. Antonina Shevchenko.
$125, the official weight for Antonina Shevchenko, whom we wish a very happy birthday, Sedom Roštenia.
Oh, there you go. It's her birthday today, Antonina. And she's on championship weight as well. Again, another statement.
She needs a win over Lipski.
All right, next
she needs a win.
To the scale. He is the man around which this card was built, the UFC men's flyweight champion, Deiveson.
Here we go.
This is big.
Nice.
So earlier on, just in case you're just joining us, Alex Perez, the challenger, weighed in at 124.5. Deiveson Figueiredo, who missed weight for his first shot at the title against Joey Benavidez, got a second opportunity, beat Joey Benavidez after making weight and became the champion. So let's see where he's at weight-wise now. He's feeling confident. Keep the mask on. He does looking good, Nick, to be fair.
125 even. 125,
there you go.
The official weight for the champion, Deiveson Figueiredo.
And there's a big sigh of relief from everybody at the UFC. We have at least one title fight. There you go. The champ's on 125. Alex Perez hitting 124.5 a little earlier on. The main event is in the books. It's ready to rock and roll and we'll be going down on BT Sport. Main card getting underway from 3 a.m. Good statement. Nice and early, that, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. He looked good as well. He looked strong, in good condition. The most important thing is that he gives his opponent respect. Alex Perez is a dangerous individual. If he's not careful, he's going to get caught sleeping. Alex Perez is a fast starter. Oh, here we go. We've got two title fights. Yeah, hopefully.
Well, this is big.
Fingers crossed.
Remember, she's had massive problems. She made weight for Joanne Calderwood. The two previous, she missed weight. Jennifer Maia, is she going to make it? Is she going to get a shot at the title?
Yes, she does. The official weight for the challenger,
there we go.
Jennifer Maia.
There you go. Them saunas are hot in Las Vegas. Done. So just to confirm, if you are only just tuning in, wherever you are in the world, watching our stream of this UFC 255 weigh-in, the main event and the co-main event are good to go. Everybody on weight.
He is the Beverly Hills Ninja, Jordan Wright.
Great nickname. Dirty Bird was good. Beverly Hills Ninja is a different level, isn't it? There you go. Right, Jordan Wright. He's taking on Joaquin Buckley. We've got a little bit of stat about this kid, haven't we? Because he's 11-0 in the UFC. But as we pointed out on our preview show, that might just be a bit padded. We'll get stuck into that in a minute. Let's see where he's at weight-wise. $185 for Jordan Wright.
Weight for Jordan Wright.
You were looking through his record, Dan. 11-0. It looks good, but you had some wonderful stats for us earlier this week.
Yeah, well, in his first 7 fights, bear in mind he's undefeated. I mean, this is the most important reason why we have to have a look at the fighter's record. In his first 7 fights, all of his opponents combined had 1 win between them, and he fought 2 guys. One of them is 0-10, and the other one is 0-21. So yeah, he wasn't up against a great deal of quality before he hit the UFC, and obviously he's fighting Joaquin Buckley, who's coming off probably the best knockout that we've seen. What, in the past 3-4 years, maybe?
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of a time when something's beaten it.
Absolutely,
it's pretty spectacular.
We're into the early prelims now. This is a middleweight contest. Dustin Stoltzfus. Easy for me to say.
Mm-hmm.
184
Nice.
the official weight for Dustin Stoltzfus.
There you go. I'll tell you something, I'm impressed with this lot at the moment. They're flying through, no messing whatsoever. They all look lean and healthy, getting the big statements in there.
I'm excited to see this one because he's fighting Kyle Daukaus. You know, Chris Daukaus' brother. We saw Kyle Daukaus in Fight Island, real fast-handed heavyweight, and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
Good, that German kid, though. Very strong. I think he's only lost one fight in his career.
If you want to get involved, by the way, with this show, you're more than welcome to do so by interacting with our Twitter feed at BT Sport UFC and hashtag Open Mic is what you should be using on social media.
170, the official weight for Louis Cosi.
There you go, making his UFC debut, if I'm not mistaken, there, boys, in the first one on the early prelims. Louis Cosi, he's taking on Sash Palatnikov. That gets us all underway on the early prelims tomorrow night.
No wonder you're nailing these names today, Catterall.
Top 15 in the light heavyweight division, in charge with kicking off the pay-per-view main card tomorrow, Paul Bearju Craig.
Now we go. Now we're excited. A little bit of British inclusion here. The big Scott.
Come on.
There's you. Paul Craig. Look at you getting revved up. You get as revved up at the weigh-ins that you do as the fights. Paul Craig. Big opportunity for him tomorrow. Obviously, the first fight with Shogun in Brazil ended a draw. He gets some victory here. He'll be shooting up these light heavyweight rankings. Let's see where the big boy's at.
$205.5.
There you go.
Weight for Paul Craig.
Looks incredible. Looks like he's had a little bit of ink done there. He's been to your tattooist, Dan. He's been getting a bit of extra work, mate.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. He's slowly filling up the canvas. I'm excited for that one, given the fact that it's they had a draw the last time out. Because you can imagine both fighters since then they've been visualizing that last fight. They've watched it back a couple of times. They could have seen areas where both of them could have put their foot on the gas a little bit and maybe stole that decision. So coming in again, how do they face each other first round, and who pulls the trigger early?
There you go. Couple of debutants kicking us off on the early prelims. Sasha Paletnikov. He's taking on Louis Cosi, who made weight a couple of moments ago. He made 170. Let's see where Sasha's at. Like I said, this one gets us underway on the early prelims. First fight of the night, this one, actually.
Can't be many fighters in the UFC from Hong Kong. He could be the only
one. I was
one,
just thinking that.
170.5.
There you go.
Weight for Sasha Palatnikov.
Beautiful. Everybody on weight. Yeah, everybody on weight so far. If you're just joining us on the BT Sport YouTube channel, we can confirm that the main event and Conan main event, they've all weighed in. All four have weighed in. They've all hit weight. No worries whatsoever. We are, though, still waiting for Mike Perry.
Tomorrow, Jared Night Train Gooden.
Tell you something, there's some nicknames on here, boys. Yeah, the Dirty Bird, the Night Train. All aboard. Jared Gooden, who's taking on Alan Jaban, the model, who weighed in a little earlier on. 170.5, he hit the scales. This will conclude the early prelims. $171
the official weight for Jared Gooden.
Just had a thought. There's people now all over the world tuning into our feed, watching three blokes watch people weigh in their underpants. You know what I mean? There's something about that on a Friday afternoon, isn't there, guys?
we all know there's weirder stuff on YouTube. This is not even close. Not even close.
This is quite tame for YouTube. We're doing all right.
Exactly.
No, we're here obviously for the fights. UFC 255. The prelims get underway at 1 a.m. and on Sunday morning, with that main card getting underway at 3 a.m. And we can confirm now that both the main event and co-main event, the men's and the women's flyweight championships of the world, will be on the line for everybody involved. Everybody's hit weight, as is our very own Paul Craig. He's waiting for Shogun to weigh in for that rematch, which kicks off that main card at 3 a.m. Quite a lot of texts and tweets and various things coming in via our social media feeds, and you're welcome to interact with the show at BT Sport UFC. use the hashtag #OpenMats. I can see a couple of bits flashing up on my screen here. I saw one a moment or two ago where somebody commented on Paul Craig that if he gets a knockout victory over Shogun, he would leapfrog everybody and should be next in line for a title shot. I like it. I like that attitude, though. You know what I mean? You've got to support your own, haven't you? Now, this will complete the early prelims. Everybody in the early prelims has been through. This is Cal Dorcas. This is a middleweight contest. Let's see where he's at.
$185.5, the official weight for Kyle
There you go.
Dorcas.
So there you go. All the prelims are in the tin. They're definitely happening, as are the main and co-main. We're still waiting for a couple of other people to be weighing in. Nicholas Dalby, Daniel Rodriguez, waiting for them. And you will have seen overnight Mike Perry sending his tweets out. I personally think that he's trolling us, personally, but I could be wrong. Having said that, though, 10 days ago, Nick, we did see him nailing a few burgers and pizzas and various things like that. If he was being serious at that point, my word, man, the jury will be out.
Yeah, even if he's, even if he is trolling us and stuff like that, this isn't going to affect Tim Means in any way whatsoever. He's a veteran man. He'll be laughing at it. He'll be back now. Means will be knee deep now in, rehydration and everything else and getting himself ready. He knows that right now Mike Perry's coming into the fight. As far as Tim Means is concerned, he's not taking the fight seriously. He hasn't got a proper corner team. He hasn't got any experience in that corner. All experience with Tim Means. And Mike Perry's not great against southpaws. Again, I reiterate it. Jeff Neal flattened him. Jeff Neal's a good southpaw. Tim Means fancies this one. He's back in his room already. He's got a nice big plate of food in front of him, and he's giggling to himself. I just, whether this is all part of a game plan or whatever, cool. If that's what Mike Perry needs, that's what Mike Perry needs. Tim Means isn't going to get involved in it, I'm telling you.
If he misses weight, geez. Given what's happened and what we've seen on social media over the last couple of weeks, given the fact that Felder made it on 5 days, come on, man.
Did you say G's then, or cheese? Because
that was on the burger. That was on the burger, yeah.
You're blaming the cheese, yeah.
Listen, the jury's still out. We're going to find out whether he was trolling us or whether he is having a problem hitting 171.
Mixed martial arts royalty here, folks. He is the former UFC light heavyweight champion, Mauricio Shogun Hua.
There you go. First fight in Brazil between him and Paul Craig ended in a draw. This one's in Las Vegas. There won't be any draws this time. This is going to get thrown down. Kicking off that main card from 3 a.m. in the morning. Paul Craig's already weighed in. He's already through. Where's Shogun at? Let's have a look.
He looks in great shape.
I like how you comment on people over the age of 40, Nick.
Always. Always. Us dad bods stick together.
205.5 for the legend Shogun Hua.
There you go. Beautiful so far. Nobody's missed weight so far. And we've got another completed fight on that main card between Shogun and Paul Craig. That's on. That kicks us off 3 a.m. in the morning on BT Sport. That's when the main card gets underway. What a great fight that is, eh? For the light heavyweight division, Dan, which is red hot at this moment in time. Number 14 and number 15 going at it. A real opportunity to jump into the top 10.
It is. And both of these guys, again, they've faced each other before. They've spent time in the octagon with each other. They know what that looks like. They know what that feels like. What that does for their visualization training throughout training camp. Picturing different ways that they could have done a little better the last time. They're both going to feel like they know exactly what to expect and exactly what they know they need to do to win the fight. Paul Craig's right at that point where he's got the potential to realize himself and his potential. His striking game is really improving very quickly, but he just doesn't have the confidence to back it up yet to let it go. On the other hand, with Shogun, we know he's a reckless striker. We know that you can hurt him and he can be on his heels, looking like a drunk on the street. But then, you go crashing forward to get the finish and he hits you with something and puts you in the same situation. So I understand where the hesitation is for Paul Craig going into this one. But the fact that he's already had that time in the octagon with him, it makes me feel like he's going to have a bit more confidence in this one to put his foot on the gas and to make an impact. And I tell you what, like I was in one of the warm-up rooms. I believe it was one of the Australia cards, and Paul Craig was fighting, and he was working body kicks on the pad, and it felt like the whole hotel was reverberating. Like he's got some real power in his kicks. If he starts nailing Shogun with those early, he might even start looking at fracturing some bones. He might not even need his submission game in this one. He just needs to pull the trigger and have some confidence to do it.
Well, if that doesn't make you stay up ways till 3 o'clock in the morning just to see this fight, nothing else will. Hey? Come on, Dan Hardy. Sell it, baby. That's what we like. If you are just joining us on this UFC 255 weigh-in stream here on the BT Sport YouTube channel, just want to quickly go through a couple of fighters that haven't hit the scales as of yet. Daniel Rodriguez and Nicholas Dalby are fighting each other. We've not seen them in that welterweight contest. They get the prelims underway. We're still waiting for Ariane Lipsky, who's fighting Valentina Chefchenko. Shevchenko came through a little earlier on. Joaquin Buckley, you remember him? That crazy knockout from that computer game, I suppose we could class it as. We haven't seen him as of yet, and we haven't seen Brendan Moreno and Brandon Royval, who will conclude, hopefully, the prelim card. Still waiting for Caitlin Chukagian and, of course, Mike Perry on that main card. Shall we get some polls up? Shall we get some interaction, I think, with our social media team? Because we want you to interact with this program as we sit here. This is a live show. You're more than welcome to come and get stuck in with us. Who have you got for the main event at UFC 255? Look at that for voting. 86%.
How many times did you vote, Nick?
12%.
Nick's on board with an Alex Perez upset, but I think given recent performances from Deiveson Figueiredo, it's no real surprise that the MMA community and the BT Sport audience right now are currently on the Deiveson Figueiredo trend, because we have just seen him put in 2 stellar performances, haven't we, against Joey Benavidez? So it's no surprise that he comes into this as a favourite with the fans.
Well, this is it. If you look at Joe Benavidez and you put him right between these 2 fighters, you've got Alex Perez on one side, who took a first-round loss to Benavidez, and then you've got Figueiredo on the other side, who's ran through Benavidez twice in a row. So, like, the MMA math, it makes sense if you put them in the rankings that Benavidez is in between the 2. But then if you also consider that Formiga's got a win over Figueiredo over the distance, and then Perez stopped him in the first round with low kicks, that kind of balances that out. But people have still got that visualization of Alex Perez losing to Benavidez, and they know that Figueiredo's a big puncher. You just can't count him out that easily, though. I'm surprised that it's not as balanced, not more balanced.
Do you know what I love? Sorry to interrupt you there. Do you know what I love, right? Our producer has just put Nick's tweet on the screen, right? They're trolling Nick on his own TV show. Check that out. That's amazing. The whole MMA community are on board with Deiveson Figueiredo. Nick Peet's called an upset, and our producers stuck it on the screen to show him up. Love it.
Just freeze shot that. Listen,
Brilliant.
I'm telling you, if we hear the sound for the start of the 4th round,
yeah,
we could be on for a big upset. I'm telling you,
I'm surprised you didn't tweet a photo of your face, Nick, along with that tweet. You should have done. Get that up on the screen.
That is classic. That is going to go down as they're on my Christmas card list there. Producer Max, well done, mate. That was sensational, pal. Dan, sorry to interrupt you. As you were saying, the MMA community are obviously well on board with the Deiveson Figueiredo. Another sensational performance. That's what they're expecting anyway against Alex Perez at UFC 255.
Yeah, well, yeah, everybody knows he's heavy-handed, and everyone's seen Alex Perez get caught by Benavidez. They're doing the MMA math. They're keeping it, quite surface in the way that they're looking into it, and it makes sense. But if you look at the way that Alex Perez fights, he's got fast hands and fast footwork. He's a quick starter as well. If you look at his Shorty Torres fight, he jumped on him. And what I would say is that, the Torres fight was a really big win, in my opinion, for him. He was able to stop him, a volume of punches, really accurate, different angles and ranges that he was coming from. And then he went into the Benavidez fight, and he just looked to me like he was overconfident. That's the truth of it. And we've seen a lot of fighters in that situation in the past. They're on a bit of a streak. They feel like they're getting somewhere in the UFC, and they step in there with someone like Benavidez, a veteran of the division, a perennial contender, and they just bite off a bit more than they can chew in that moment. But I feel like he's learned from that Benavidez fight. You put him in there against Figueiredo, he knows what he's up against. He knows how dangerous Figueiredo is. He knows that if he gets clipped on the chin, he's going to go sleep. and he's in there for the belt. You know, he's on the scales on the first, first person on the scales. I think this is going to be an electric first 10 minutes, because that's where we're going to really see what Perez is made of, and how patient and calculated he can be against someone as dangerous as Figueiredo.
Are you on a performance bonus today, Dan? You're selling the living daylights out of this, Sunshine. Someone from BT's been on to Dan today, aren't they? Going, Dan, give it some hype, Sunshine. There's an extra few quid in this for you.
I just got a good night's sleep. That's what it is.
Good, man. Well, I'll tell you something. There are some sensational fights for us to get hyped about. Let's be honest. Cracking question on screen there. I don't know if you can see that from Isaiah. Nick, I'm coming to you. All right, mate? We saw domination in this division from Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson. We're now seeing the rise of maybe a new star in Deiveson Figueiredo. Who wins, DJ or Deiveson?
It's an interesting question, because, which DJ are we talking about? Are we talking about DJ today or DJ Jonah's UFC reign? I think DJ Jonah's UFC reign just proved to everybody that he was untouchable. But what we do know is that Deiveson Figueiredo has got the power to knock any flyweight clean out. We've seen it in the past, and that's something that DJ just didn't have. I think another question you could put in there is Deiveson Figueiredo versus Henry Cejudo. If Henry Cejudo came back at flyweight, who would win that fight? So there is some great matches out there. I would love to see DJ maybe come back to the UFC. Maybe that boat sailed now. But I would love to see him come back, maybe gets that trade with Ben Askren. Probably wasn't as good as the UFC actually thought. DJ is still a big star in the sport. But right now, it's all about Deiveson Figueiredo, and it's about Alex Perez this weekend. And I just think it's more of a fight than most people are giving Perez credit for. I think it's a better fight, and I'll reiterate it. It's a better fight than Garbrandt. Perez is a better flyweight, and he's hungrier. He's got a better chin. It's going to be a good fight, man. You better believe it. Honestly, this is going to be entertaining.
As if you've not referred to the tweet that's now just been put up on the screen that Azim is agreeing with you, that they reckon that they can see as well the upset from Perez. Yeah?
That's Nick's other account. That's Nick's troll account.
That's Nick's pseudonym. He's got a troll account.
Got another one going.
He's one of that 12% that voted for Perez on the poll.
Listen, me and Azim will have the last laugh when we're cashing our money in on Sunday.
Fair point. Listen, you're more than welcome to come and interact with the show. As you can see, it is a live program. We're live on the BT Sport YouTube channel and various social channels as well. Get involved. Tweet your questions in. Use the hashtag #UpperMat. We'll try our very best to get to them. I'm going to come to that question in a minute. Great question there from Joshua about Figueiredo moving up. But Dan, I just want to come to you on the previous question of DJ Figueiredo. To be fair to the UFC hierarchy, they've got a few quid. I'd try and get him back. Would you not? Would you not like to see that? DJ and Deiveson? That'd be a great fight.
Yeah, I would. I think what we're seeing though at the moment is it's quite healthy him not being in the division, because DJ is that guy that can beat everybody out there. And if he's the champion, if he's defending his belt, he comes in prepared for every individual that he faces. He's an excellent fighter. Even in the fights where he struggled, he's looked excellent. The thing that sticks out to me, and when I play through the Figueiredo fight in my head with DJ, I keep going back to the Dodson fight where DJ was clipped a few times and he was hurt. Now, I know Dodson's moved up a weight class, but he's still not as big or as powerful as Figueiredo. You stand next to them, you stand them next to one another. They don't all like the same weight class. Figueiredo's thick, he's muscular, he's a powerful individual. And the way that he fights, you pick your poison with him. Do you want to strike with him, or do you want to grapple with him? He'll wrap you up like a cobra, like he did with Benavidez. Yeah. I think it would be a very, very interesting test for Demetrius Johnson. And I would also say this: now he's been taken out of his championship rhythm. You bring him back to the UFC. He's in, what is obviously, obviously it's familiar territory, but it's not as familiar as it is for Figueiredo, who's now the champion. I think the ball would certainly be in his court to take the fight and beat DJ in that circumstance.
Now, the question on screen from Joshua is listen, it's a good question because we're living in these crazy times now, aren't we? Where everybody seems obsessed with multi-weight world champions and they want to move up and down in weight and hold belts in various weight categories all at the same time. This question maybe a year ago, you'd have gone, yeah, absolutely. But there's a Shark Tank here at flyweight and there's some serious fights for Figueiredo to have, Nick. Don't get me wrong, I'd like him maybe to have a little bit of a look at the Cody Garbrandt, for example, at the weight category above. But right now, I think there's business to handle at flyweight. Where are you at?
Yeah, absolutely. it's one of those divisions, as Dan said, it was locked under for so long. We've only had a handful of champions in UFC flyweight history. No one's really been able to stamp a claim since DJ, really. And it's been up in the air. And I'd love to see Figueiredo stick around. There's 3 guys on this card, including the challenger, that I'd like to see him fight. I'd like to see Jaban come down and fight him. There's loads of work to be done. And I think Figueiredo can concentrate on building his own legacy as one of the greatest flyweights. And who knows, maybe even build that narrative about DJ coming back and build the narrative about Cejudo coming back. Because we know Cejudo's in quasi-retirement, but he isn't going to stay retired. The guy was put on this planet to fight and compete. So he's going to come back at some stage. And Cejudo's still in an enviable position that he can come back as a flyweight or a bantamweight and pretty much jump in for a title shot because he walked away with both those belts. So for now, I'd like to see Figueiredo stick around where he is, solidify his legacy in this weight division, or, as I tend to think, maybe see this weight belt jump around and be like a little bit of a hot potato for a while. Exactly how I feel, incidentally, about the light heavyweight division. I don't want to send you out light heavyweight. I want light heavyweight to stay light heavyweight, because for once in over a decade, the guy with the belt isn't called John Jones. I'd like to see all the other guys have a crack at that belt.
Dan, great question on screen there from Bradley. I know that Nick's mentioned Triple C a couple of times. And he's keeping himself relevant, isn't he? He's Henry. He pops up on social media every now and again just to remind us about his gold medals and championship belts. But if Figueiredo does something really spectacular, and listen, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. If he does something really spectacular in the first round at the weekend, could we see Henry Cejudo back in the UFC sooner than expected?
I certainly think so. Yeah, I think, what we have to bear in mind is Henry Cejudo, he's got that kind of personality where he needs attention, he wants attention, he feels like he deserves it. He's got, a gold medal, 2 UFC belt. He's not going to be out of the limelight for a long while, especially while he's, in or about his athletic peak. I expect him to be back in the octagon at some point. My only question is, does he feel like the risk is worth the reward? Now, if I'm Henry Cejudo, I'm looking at Deiveson Figueiredo and thinking to myself, well, my striking's improved. I know what he's all about, but I feel like I've got the volume and the speed advantage. But I can deal with his grappling from a wrestling perspective. He's got a great top game. It's going to be difficult to find someone that's going to out grapple Cejudo in the UFC, purely because he can engage and disengage whenever he wants, because he's got the glue that's in between. He's not a submission guy necessarily. He's got the oppressive top game, the ground and pound, the control, and he's got enough knowledge of the submission game to be able to stay out of things that Figueiredo might throw at him. So, it's a fair gamble for Cejudo to come back if he feels like it's, if he's going to get the money and the recognition for it. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Cejudo return against someone like a returning TJ Dillashaw in a big money fight or something like that. There are super fights around these weights that I think could be made quite easily. And just to go back to the idea of Figueiredo moving up a weight class, the reality is, he walks around heavier than bantamweight anyway. He's missed weight at flyweight. He's a big dude. Him going up to bantamweight is not nearly as much of an ask as having a bantamweight come down to flyweight. I would have much rather have seen Figueiredo go up and face Cody Garbrandt and not put his belt on the line. I know Garbrandt's chasing the belt and everything, but I just feel like it's a more competitive fight and it's a more interesting fight if Figueiredo had just foregone part of his weight cut and gone in at bantamweight instead.
Nice. See, that's what you get with BT Sport Open Mat with Dan Hardy. Not only do we talk about the fights and get you hyped up for it for UFC 255, but we make fight suggestions that are probably going to get made in the next month or two because we know that the UFC hierarchy are watching us right now. Now, listen, if you've just joined us, wherever you are all over the world, watching us on the BT Sport streaming services, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or wherever it may be, just want to give you a little bit of information because there's a bit of a lull in the action now as people are hitting the scales. I can tell you that the main event and co-main event, they're done. They're dusted. They are in the tin. You're going to see them on BT Sport. Everybody made weight. Job right. We've got 2 world title fights on the line. I know that you probably just tuned in to see where Mike Perry is. We haven't seen him as of yet. We've just got as much information as you off the back of all his social media interactions over the last 24 hours. We are wondering whether he's trolling us all or whether he is having a real problem trying to hit 170. He hasn't hit the scales as of yet. his opponent, the Dirty Bird, has. He's in, rehydrating, getting ready to rock and roll. We've got about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fighters still to come through. And we've got, just under an hour and a half for those fighters to come through. Hopefully it won't take all of that. But if it does, don't worry, because we're here to interact with you. You're more than welcome to come and send us various tweets and various things to get involved with the show. And we've got some other discussion points as well that we will get stuck into, because you will have seen over the last 24 hours that McGregor has signed that bout agreement. So we're going to talk about it at some point, and you're more than welcome to come and join us for that. Just use the hashtag OpenMatt and interact with BT Sport UFC on Twitter. Now then, we had a poll throw up a little bit earlier on for the main event between Deiveson Figueiredo and Alex Perez, and it was pretty one-sided. 86% in the favour of the champion. Well, it's got even more one-sided, and I think Nick agrees with this one, because he was talking about this fight a little earlier. He agrees with this one a lot more. What have we got there? 94% in favour of the champion, Valentina Chefchenko, to have her hand raised again in this defence of her title. Nick, surprised?
I think the 6% need to go and have a quiet word with themselves, to be honest with you. Unless they're trolling us, unless it's more Mike Perry trolling antics. But I'm not surprised at all. You know, I've got to be honest. I think Jennifer Maia and Jojo Calderwood on the same night would probably struggle to beat Valentina Chefchenko. She's just streets ahead of everybody else in this flyweight division for me. I think she's destined really to have that triple fight, that third fight. With the bantamweight champion, with Amanda Nunes. I think the second fight with Nunes was a lot closer than the first fight. I think Shevchenko was coming on strong in the second fight as well. So I think ultimately that's where their destiny lies. But it is tough in the women's weight divisions, and it's tough on, I feel for Jennifer Maia. She's only 5 fights into a UFC career, or 6 fights into a UFC career. She's straight into a title fight. It's tough, man. But that's just what it's like in the women's weight divisions, where there just isn't really the strength of field that you would get necessarily in the men's lightweight or welterweight divisions, where you can be in the sport, you can be in the UFC for 4 to 5 years, put 9 wins together like Leon Edwards, and still not get a title shot.
Welcome Nicholas Dalby.
Well, hey, here's our boy.
Good.
Locomotivo.
I was getting worried. Yeah, I was getting worried about Nicholas. He's never missed weight. So for him to be late on the scales was worrying me.
$170, the official weight for Nicholas Dalby.
That's why he was late. He's making championship weight. He had an extra pound there if he wanted it. He thought, nah, sack it. I'll make a statement. Let's get stuck into it. Listen, what a great fight this is, because there's a lot of hype at the moment about Daniel Rodriguez. He's on a 9-fight undefeated streak, is Rodriguez. And now, technically, we could class Dalby as maybe being on a 5-fight undefeated streak, with the overturning result of what we saw on Fight Island with Jesse Ronson, who failed the USADA test. He's now been banned for 20 months off the back of that. And we'll speak about that as a total different subject in a minute. But this is a wonderful, wonderful fight. A great opportunity. I know it's last moment with a replacement, but Dan, what an opportunity for Nicholas Dalby, maybe to steal a little bit of Rodriguez's hype and propel himself maybe to contest against them top 15 fighters at welterweight. Yeah,
definitely. And the reality with the welterweight division, it's the same with the Tim Means Mike Perry fight. It's wide open. It always is. If you're a personality and you can get a couple of big wins under your belt and impressive wins, then you can jump. You can leapfrog ahead of people. I mean, look, we've just had Khamzat Chimaev make his debut in the welterweight division's rankings, and he's had two fights at welterweight in the UFC, and he's not beaten anybody of any rank at all. It's like a lot of it ebbs and flows based on people's opinion of what you're capable of, rather than what you've actually achieved. And what people need to do, what all these fighters need to do, to Dalby and Rodriguez. Oh, here we go. One of the Brandons.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Brandon
Royval. I was getting a little bit nervous. I'm going to be honest with you, boys. I was getting a little bit nervous, but this is the fight that we tipped to be fight of the night, top of the prelims.
125
Nice.
145.5. Nice.
There you
Battle
go.
of Brandons.
Yeah,
That's going to be a great fight, that is. What was I saying? What were we talking about? Oh, we're talking about the welterweights. Yeah, all I'm saying is, like, Hamza entering the rankings is a great example. Like, you need big performances, impressive performances that let people know that you've got huge potential in this division. Mm-hmm. And every welterweight fight on this card, they've all got the potential to really steal the show. Like, if Joaquin Buckley lives up to his potential again, he's going to steal the show again. You know what I mean? There's a lot of opportunities. Nicholas Dalby's got excellent striking. Daniel Rodriguez is a big puncher. We've got Mike Perry, we've got Tim Means. Whether Mike Perry makes weight or not, that fight will happen because Tim Means don't care.
Next fighter to the
so it's like we've got.
Also the
Here we go.
Oh,
here we go.
Brandon Moreno.
They must be shipping these guys in on a bus because all of a sudden they've decided to start turning up. What's going on here? Right, okay. We've just had Brandon Royval come through at 125.5. This is Brandon Moreno. Top of the prelims. This is the fight that a lot of fight fans are getting extremely excited about. Dan Hardy's called it as a potential fight of the night, and we can see on our social media feed there where loads of people are tweeting, and please keep it coming. Hashtag Open Matt at BT Sport UFC. Keep it coming in because a lot of people are hyped about this particular contest because they know, having watched these guys recently, that there's a potential here for some serious bonus checks to be thrown around. As I said, Brandon Royval came in at 125.5. Let's see where Brandon Moreno is at.
He must be tight because he's had to request a paper mask. He had to get rid of the plastic Bane style mask and gone for a paper mask. So he must be tight on the weight.
That's a coffee filter. That's not even a mask. It's a bit lighter.
125, the official.
Oh, here we go. Championship weight.
Well, there you go. See, that's a statement. That's a statement because he was due to fight Perez, and Perez got the opportunity to fight for the title, and he didn't. He didn't, even though he's been in the UFC longer. So I think he wanted to make championship weight to make a bit of a statement, but I don't know what he's been waiting for.
Making weight, mate. That's what he's been doing. He's been making championship. He'd have been here 40 minutes ago with that extra pound. No bother. But at least we've got it. At least we've got it. Dan, you must be ecstatic because that fight, everybody's pumped for it, man. You called it earlier on in the week when we were doing the open match show. That fight has got it all. And what a wonderful opportunity for the winner of that because you would think, lay down a statement with the championship fight coming a little bit later on. Denner's going to be seeing it and he's going to be going, you're next in line, kid.
100%. You look at both of these guys, the way that they fight, they're very easily marketable. You look at Brandon Royval's fight against Kai Kara France. Like, who thinks about throwing a spinning elbow when they're rocked and they're on one knee? That's a wild man's conversation in his head. I'm down on one knee. I've not quite got my wits about me. I know, spinning elbow, that'll work. Like who does that? Straight into a knee, which was very close to getting him in trouble. Straight into a go-go platter. He's got a wild game. He's a big risk taker. Sometimes it costs him a little bit, but at the same time, it pays big when it pays off. Then on the other side, Brandon Moreno, he just loves being in the moment. He loves a fist fight. He's always grinning. He's always calling it on. He likes to mix it up no matter what range you're fighting at. And again, he's a big risk taker. But when he takes those risks, and sometimes they pay off. And this is one of those opportunities to steal the show on the undercard of the flyweight championship. It's a great idea.
Shall we do a bit of news, boys, whilst we're waiting for other people to weigh in? And we will break off whilst we're talking about other things that are not connected to UFC 255. But we'll break off, obviously, to come straight back in to the weigh-ins because that's the most important thing. But over the last 24 hours, we've had a little bit of a development, haven't we? January 23rd, we might be booking them flights back out to Fight Island, lads. There we go. Because according to all official sources, Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier have signed their bout agreements. The fight is on January 23rd, and we've heard Dana White, he spoke to us last time we were out on Fight Island. He said his plan is to go back to Fight Island. That's where he wants to take that fight. He wants to do it in front of fans. Makes perfect sense. If there's an opportunity in the Middle East to get fans in an arena, Nick, that is the perfect fight to do it, isn't it?
Well, it's my birthday the week after as well, and Dana's just answered all my prayers right there. He's just given me the ultimate birthday present, hasn't he? Listen, whether it's got the title attached or not, you know my theory on it. I want to get a lightweight tournament going, and this is the perfect way to kick off a lightweight tournament. I think what we need now is Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson as co-main or chief support on that card. But listen, man, it's Conor McGregor, and whether you love him or you hate him, you can't deny the fact that there is no bigger star in mixed martial arts. When Conor fights, special things happen, and I can only hope that if it does head back to Abu Dhabi, it's purely because, as Dana told us out there on Fight Island last time, it's because he believes that Abu Dhabi are going to be ahead of the curve and are going to be the first a place where the UFC can welcome back fans, because there'll be something not quite right about watching Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2 in a silent arena. That needs fans, it needs noise, it needs energy levels, and it needs excitement. Certainly if you're Conor McGregor, because take all those elements away, and a part of Conor McGregor's game diminishes. And I think then you give I think then you're swaying back in favour of Dustin Poirier. You can not get caught up in Conor's mind and not get sucked in to Conor's way of thinking and to be thrown off track in his own game by what Conor says and how Conor acts. I think that would play into Dustin Poirier's hands. But it's the Conor show, isn't it, man? Of course, whenever Conor McGregor fights, it's the Conor show. And right now, I know we're holding on to the fact that Khabib is going to return and the title isn't going to be made vacant anytime soon. But you better believe if there's no announcement by January the 22nd, you better believe they're going to throw that belt at Conor McGregor for sure.
He's already booked his jet skis, hasn't he, Dan? You can see the excitement on his face. He's already there, man. Just on our social media feed here, do keep them coming. We want you to interact. #OpenMat, BT Sport UFC on Twitter. Do you agree or disagree with this? This is my MMA review on Twitter. Thank you very much for this. McGregor KOs Poirier within the very first minute of round 1. What do you reckon, Dan?
No, I don't think so. I think, and for a few different reasons. Oh, Nick's shaking his head. He agrees with me. It's very rare that Nick and I agree on something. No, I don't think so. I think that, there are a few things. If I'm Dustin Poirier, the route that I'm going is at 145, I wasn't my best. I wasn't as strong at 145 as I was. I mean, that was his last fight at that weight class. He moved up to 155 after that, and he's looked like a contender ever since. I would also argue that he's taken punches from other fighters that other people wouldn't be able to take, particularly Justin Gaethje. He's taken some big punches from Justin Gaethje, and Poirier stood there. I think 155 is a much healthier weight class for him, and I think he's much more durable at this weight class. I think McGregor's going to have to earn the victory a bit more in this one. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a second round stoppage, but I certainly think Poirier is going to be competitive in the early going.
Yeah, we'll come back to that conversation in a minute. This is D-Rod. This is the guy that is fighting Nicholas Dalby, Daniel Rodriguez.
I like this guy. This guy can fight, man. He's only lost one fight in his career. And if you go back and watch that fight, it was a controversial split decision defeat as well. And since he's been in the UFC, we've had a submission, the submission over Tim Means. He's won on points, and he's won with a first round knockout. He's got it all. Tough fight for Dalby, as always.
Great fight, though. And like I said, it's obviously a replacement opponent, isn't it? And this is the kind of attitude that we're starting to become all too familiar with. I think Felder's kind of cemented it now, hasn't he? He set the bar a couple of weeks ago. That when the opportunities do present themselves, you've got to run with it, because opportunities might not knock twice. You can't say, come back next week, I'm not ready just yet. You've got to go when that opportunity comes. Dalby was training for the day. The day, obviously, was set in stone. The opponent fell off, and D-Rod stuck his hand up, and away we go. So it's a wonderful opportunity for Nicholas to do his thing. And if he can get himself back on the winning track, like I said earlier on, Dan, he's fighting top 15 welterweights in 2021, isn't it?
Yeah, he's definitely got the skill set for it. He's definitely got the potential. In his first stint in the UFC, he clearly wasn't quite ready. But he showed his potential, especially in that fight with Darren Till, which took him to a draw. Dalby's a talented, skilled individual, and then in his time away from the UFC, fighting his way back through the Cage Warriors organization, picked up some amazing knockouts. Proving himself as one of the best welterweights in Europe still, and found his way back to the UFC. I still don't think he's reached his potential, and I think, oh, here we go, Buckley's up. I think Dalby pushed against the other challengers in this division, he's really going to show his best. Go on, Adam. I know you're excited about this one.
No, this is Nick's boy. He's called him as maybe another fight of the night bonus. We saw that sensational knockout in Abu Dhabi, didn't we, on Fight Island? I mean, it still defies the laws of physics how he managed to do it. This is Joaquin Buckley. Let's see what he weighs. It's a middleweight contest.
He's massive.
He looks like you, Nick, on Abu Dhabi Beach. He looks great, Nick, doesn't it?
He looks just like me, yeah. I was thinking that.
182 and a half, the official weight for
Joaquin. Oh, is he going down?
That can't be right.
Has he cut too much? Or is he going down a weight class?
182 and a half. Interesting. Maybe he's
head a little bit.
Nah, mate. Maybe he's going for more aerodynamics. Maybe he's going for some crazy stuff this weekend. That's what he said. He needs to get a bit lighter because he wants to do that kick higher. I don't know, man. But either way, he's on weight. It's a middleweight contest, so let's go, man. He could get it on. He's fighting Jordan Wright, of course. We are still waiting for Ariane Lipski, Caitlin Chukagian, and Mike Perry. Yes, you've seen the tweets overnight where Mike Perry has been saying that he is struggling to make 170 pounds. I said that he's trolling us all. He'll be first on the scales, or he's going to make us all wait for the full 2 hours, and then he'll come in with a minute to go, with a burger in his hand, stand on the scales, weigh 170 and clear off, won't it? Something like that is going to happen, I imagine. I might be drastically wrong. We're going to find out, obviously, over the next hour because we're coming up to the first hour nearly completed of the UFC 255 weigh-ins. I can confirm that the main event was on point, everybody on weight, and therefore we have a title on the line in the men's flyweight division. And we have one on the line in the women's flyweight division as well, because the co-main event also weighed in on point as well. Nobody as of yet has missed. Like I said, we're just waiting for Ariane Lipski, Caitlin Chukagian, and Mike Perry. Everybody else on the nose. Quickly, Nick, going back to that fight on January 23rd, rumoured for Fight Island, Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. We hear a lot from Dana that Khabib's going to fight again. I mean, I would love to see him fight again, but I follow his social media, and he doesn't sound like a guy that's going to be fighting again anytime soon. He is adamant. Even some of the interviews that I've seen over the last 24, 48 hours with Khabib, he said, listen, man, I've achieved what I needed to do. Let other people get on with it. I'm getting on with a different part of my life now.
Yeah.
If that is the situation, can you realistically see in, a 2-month period now, where we might see some type of trinket, whether it be interim or full, on the line for that fight on January 23rd?
I think so, absolutely. You know, you've got to remember who Conor McGregor is and what he's done for this sport and the amount of eyeballs that will be on that fight at the end of January, purely because Conor's involved. You know, he goes beyond the sport in a lot of ways, just like Khabib does, but Conor brings a whole different mainstream audience to him. And I think that the UFC would be crazy not to throw some kind of belt at it, or even just at least make an announcement in regards to what's going to happen with the belt. Because we as the media, we will demand it. We need to know what's going on. Conor will need to know what's going on. Likewise, Dustin Poirier. I think it might be a mistake to throw the belt at Conor at that point, because if he wins, you know what Conor's like. He'll probably disappear and, you know, go and box Manny Pacquiao, and we won't see him inside the octagon for 2 years. And we'll have to take the belt off him again, and then vacant title belt. It'd just be a complete mess. But we do need to have a decision by then. We need to either have an announcement that Khabib is coming back, or an announcement around what is going to happen with that championship belt in that lightweight division. To be honest, right now, Khabib's the best fighter walking the planet. So you'd pick any of the 8 that I would love to see in this mystical lightweight elimination tournament for this belt. Pick any of those 8, and I can't pick any of them that beats Khabib right now. So I kind of like the fact that Khabib's taking a step back and going, go on then, you guys. You know, I know it's for personal reasons rather than anything else, but I like the fact that the best fighter, the best lightweight on the planet, who I think beats them all right now, is taking a step back. Let's sort this thing out. Let's do it for 12, 18 months. Let's crown a new champion. And then if that new champion stands out and raises questions, then maybe we go, okay, this guy's more than capable. And that would open the door then for Khabib to come back. Huge fanfare, huge attention. I think that sets it up perfectly. Very similar, to be fair, to Henry Cejudo and this flyweight division. If Figueiredo can go on a run, then Figueiredo forces the narrative. By this time next year, if Figueiredo's got 3 or 4 scalps on his belt, he won't have to call out for Henry Cejudo. We'll all be doing it for him. We'll be saying, this is the new dominant champion. Bring Cejudo back and let's see it happen. Boom. We got a ton of money on the table, and then the fight becomes bigger than ever.
There you go, man. What a way to kick off 2021. That's on January the 23rd. Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, they've signed their bout agreements. We're still waiting for an official announcement from the UFC. Who knows? Might come this weekend. The week before that, by the way, we found out on social media this week, Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar are going at it. That's a heck of a fight. Congratulations, Max Holloway, on getting engaged as well this week. That's 2021. Let's just park that for a second because we're kicking off the new year in great fashion. We've had a wonderful 2020, even though we've been in the middle of a pandemic and it's been very difficult to get things on and for people to fly around the world as we would do normally. The UFC have not skipped a beat. Since May the 9th, when they gave us Ferguson Gaethje, week after week, it has just been stellar fight after stellar fight, and they are finishing the year in style. December the 19th, I just want to fast forward near enough, 5-6 weeks, to December the 19th. Well, less than that, 3 weeks even, to December the 19th. The main event has been confirmed, as you can see there on your screen now. Our very own Leon Edwards is taking on the man of the moment, the hype train that is the Wolf, Khamzat Chimaev. What a wonderful main event. The card is stacking up well, Dan, but that main event is an absolute crackerjack.
Well, this is where we're going to get to really see what Khamzat Chimaev is capable of. You know, someone like Leon Edwards with his, you know, he's got great conditioning, he's got great skills across the board. You know, he's got high fight IQ, which is why sometimes, you know, his fights can be a little cautious. But I think that's going to pay off in this one. You know, it's going to give him some time to really, you know, figure Khamzat Chimaev out and where his real dangers are, where the threats are. I mean, you know, I'm not discounting Khamzat Chimaev here because he might really impress us. But if he's able to beat Leon, that's a significant step up, you know, from everybody else he's faced in his career so far. You know, there's no doubt about it. Like, Leon's a proven welterweight, as a highly skilled fighter that, you know, should be in title conversations, you know, if not immediately, you know, within a fight. He's taken this fight against Khamzat Chimaev due to the circumstances that were, you know, that developed around him not fighting for so long. But this is, I think it's a good opportunity for Leon to, you know, to benefit from all of this hype. You know, what we've all said, you know, all three of us on this show multiple times, the thing that Leon suffers from is his ability to take the mic and market himself when he should have something to say. But beating Khamzat Chimaev, it needs nothing. It needs no mic skills at all. You beat a guy that's on this kind of hype at the moment with this kind of win streak and this kind of attention behind him. I mean, you know, you look at his social media, it went from like 25,000 to like 2 million or something in about 8 weeks. You know, like the guy's an absolute megastar. If Leon beats him, then everybody who's following the UFC right now knows who Leon is and how good he is. And that's a big opportunity for Leon, which is kind of flipped on its head, considering the fact that he's the ranked fighter and he's basically opening the door for Khamzat Chimaev to come into the welterweight division.
One of the interesting things about this was that when the fight was made, Leon Edwards was the betting favourite. Since the fight was kind of rumoured, and I know it's been officially announced today, it's gone full circle. Khamzat Chimaev is now the betting favourite coming into this fight. Nick, what do you? I'm going to put. Oh, it's gone up. They put it up already. They beat me to it. The poll's gone up on there. The BT audience who were interacting with this on social media, you can see there 63%, 37% in favour of Leon Edwards coming through that fight. Do you think that's a fair assessment, or do you think Leon should be further ahead there, given the fact of his body of work recently and that he's number 3 ranked?
I think he should probably be marginally ahead. But the thing is, with Chimaev, he is a hype train. And, you know, we all love a hype train. We all love the fact that what he's done so far has been nothing short of sensational. And you like to dream, and you like to think that, you know, this guy could potentially be a next generation mixed martial artist. We could be seeing something we've never seen before. Somebody that can absolutely just steam train through 2 weight divisions and could literally, you know, become the champion within, you know, a very short space of time of joining the UFC. But I think there's also the intelligent fan out there that's just got a little bit more grounded, that, unlike me, thinks with this rather than this, and says, wait a minute, whoa, you got Leon Edwards there. He's a top contender. You know, how many more guys has he got to beat before he finally gets his title shot? on his terms, right? Not a late notice shot, not something where he's got to fly to the other side of the world during a pandemic. A proper title shot that he deserves, a 10-week training camp, 8-week training camp, a full opportunity. What's he got to do? I don't need to see him beat Stephen Thompson. I don't need to see him beat another guy in and around the top 10. What I need Leon Edwards to do is make a statement. And the way he makes a statement is by derailing the biggest hype train in the UFC right now. There's risk involved, of course, as Dan just pointed out. He is risking his top 3 ranking against a guy that's shouldn't be anywhere near the rankings. He is a hype job. The risk for Leon Edwards is, what if he starches him? What if he does a number on Chimaev? Will people then go, yeah, but it was only Chimaev's 4th fight? No, you can't do that. You can't do it. You've got to say, right, Leon Edwards, if you get a win, especially if you win impressively, you've got to get a title shot next. That's the narrative I'll be banging. I'll be demanding it from the UFC. I'll say, come on, guys. You've got to give Leon Edwards a title shot next. And he'll deserve it. If he can beat Chimaev and do it well, and we kick off Christmas in style, then Leon Edwards has got to get the next shot in the new year.
Here's an idea. Let Nick do the post-fight interview. Mate, you sold it, baby. Everybody's on board. Everybody's on board. Listen, that card on December the 19th, the main event stellar. We're all in on Leon Edwards and Khamzat Chimaev, but just have a little bit of a look at some of the fights that are rumoured to be joining it. You mentioned Stephen Thompson's name a moment or two ago. What a fantastic fight that he's involved in with Jeff Neal. And I got this information randomly as I was doing a bit of moonlighting for BT Sports Boxing when we were previewing the Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez fight. Speaking to Teofimo Lopez, he told me that his mate, Chito Vera, was going to be fighting Jose Aldo about 2 months ago. And I was like, what are you talking about? Why don't I know that? I work on the UFC show. How come? He's the guy that dropped that information. Now we're seeing the hot rumours that fight is going to be made. What a great fight, Dan. That card to finish the year is absolutely on the money.
What a great fight. I mean, we know what Chito Vera is capable of. He's a skilled fighter that loves to make fights messy when he doesn't really need to. He makes them more difficult for himself sometimes than necessary. But he's excited in the moment. He enjoys himself, and I think what he's up against here with Jose Aldo is one of the most highly skilled fighters that we've seen in the octagon. He's an excellent Muay Thai fighter, and when I first heard that this was rumored, the first thing I thought to myself is Chito struggles sometimes when he's got a bit of a legend in front of him. I'm thinking back to the Brad Pickett fight in London, and it took him 2 rounds in that fight. He was kind of admiring the fact that he was fighting Brad Pickett. He might get caught admiring Jose Aldo in this one, and that might give Aldo time to chop his legs up enough to really slow him down. It's a great opportunity for Chito Vera, though, because Aldo's still Aldo, even though he's not not the version that we know as a featherweight great. And it should be an electric fight stylistically as well.
If you're just joining us on this feed, it is the UFC 255 weigh-in. The Open Mat with Dan Hardy boys, live. This is a live show. You're more than welcome to interact with it. Hashtag Open Mat on Twitter at BT Sport UFC. We've got a main event. They've weighed in. They're absolutely nailed on. No problems whatsoever. So the men's flyweight title is on the line for Perez and obviously the champion Figueiredo. And the co-main event is signed and sealed as well. Maia versus Shevchenko will go down for the women's flyweight championship. We are still waiting for Ariane Lipski, Caitlin Chookagian, and Mike Perry. We'll have more on that in a moment or two. Bad times. Is he trolling us, Nick? What do you think, pal?
I don't know, and this is the thing, it's like someone check his social media accounts, someone check what's going on, someone check his room. Is he still in the hotel? Has he left? Where is he at? Some of those tweets that he was putting out just a few hours ago, you kind of thought someone just make sure he hasn't got a taxi and left the hotel. Is he even still around? Is he even still trying to cut weight? Or is he sitting in a burger bar laughing, looking across, looking at people panicking, trying to find him? That's the whole thing with Mike Perry. You just don't know what's going on inside his head. But I tell you what, old Tim Means is on his second course by now. He doesn't give a damn, and he's ready to do the business.
Right, I've got a question for you, Dan. What is it now? We're an hour and 5 minutes into this show, and that's a new record. Normally we get one of these after about 5-10 minutes. We've got this now after an hour and 5 minutes. Dan Hardy, would you return to fight Diego Sanchez? There you go. It's on the screen there for you, mate. What do you think?
Isn't it time for him to retire? It really is time for him to retire. I don't even need to ask that question. It was rhetorical. Like, it's time for him to retire. The last thing he needs is me punching him in the head. He might not remember his name after that. I'm concerned about the guy. I think he needs to. I think he needs to slow down. He's fighting with his face first. He's coming in unprepared, unconditioned. He was once a great fighter, and he has definitely fallen from that podium in my eyes, which is unfortunate. But maybe we can fight for pink slips. Maybe we'll fight for retirement papers. Loser goes home.
There you go, Jimmy. Thank you very much for your social media post there, and you're more than welcome to interact with the show at any point. Hashtag Up and Matt at BT Sport UFC. How many messages do you get a day, Dan, about your comeback, mate? Off Nick. How many did you get?
Off Nick. No, not many off Nick now. He's slowed down these days, maybe 60 or 70 a day at the moment. But it's at least half what it used to be. People are keen. So I'm working on it. I'll be showing up in Fight Island in January, ready to step in if someone falls out.
Well, it's interesting that you just brought that up, because we have seen a narrative recently from Tony Ferguson, your mate, wink, wink, and he's been putting out that he wanted to fight on the December the 12th card or December the 9th. Somewhere in December he wanted to fight, and he was mentioning the name of Michael Chandler. Nick recently has said that is a wonderful, wonderful fight to maybe add to the December the 12th card, seeing as that we lost the title fight with Amanda Nunes recently pulling out of that. Doesn't look like that's going to go ahead. Chandler's responded by saying that he fancies January 23rd. And Nick, a moment or two ago, you said Conor, Dustin, co-main event, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler. Makes an awful amount of sense, doesn't it? And we've just got a tweet here from Tom. Who wins out of Tony versus Chandler, if indeed it happens? I think it will happen. It's a matter of when, isn't it?
I think it is definitely a matter of when, because they both seem to want it. Chandler told us when we were in Fight Island that that's absolutely the fight he wants for his UFC debut. Huge, risky fight, The thing is, I don't know whether people are looking at the loss to Justin Gaethje now and think that now is the time to get Tony Ferguson. Finally, he's gone down the mountain. Someone beat him at his own game. Is his engine slowing down? Is his chin starting to lose him? Is he getting a little bit weak around the whiskers now? Can he be hurt like he's never been hurt before? I think Chandler's seen it as a big opportunity, but it's also high risk, high reward, because if Tony Ferguson turns back the clock, he's definitely one of the best lightweights on the planet.
We'll come back to that conversation in a moment. Just want to break off, as you just heard there, a little bit of an announcement. Katlyn Chookagian is here, the number 2 contender in the women's flyweight division. Challenged for a title earlier on this year, was beaten handsomely by Shevchenko, beaten on Fight Island as well by Andrade. It's a big fight for her this weekend. Yes. Let's see where she's at weight-wise.
$125 3/4, the official weight for Katlyn Chookagian.
There you go. Well, she's on weight. She had till 126 to hit. Katlyn Chookagian taking on Cynthia Calvillo, who made weight a little earlier on. We're now just waiting for 2 fighters, just in case you are just joining the BT Sport stream of UFC 255's weigh-in. Ariane Lipski, who's down to fight Shevchenko's sister, Antonina, who weighed in a little earlier on. Ariane Lipski, we haven't seen her as of yet. And the man that I'm saying is trolling us all. He might not be. He might not be trolling us all now that I'm getting to this point. I'll tell you, it's squeaky bum time for me as well, because I've called him out. Here we go. Mike Perry. We still have not seen Mike Perry on the scales. Everybody else has hit the scales. No miss weight as of yet. We've got a title fight in the men's flyweight division. We've got a title fight in the women's flyweight division. Everything going ahead nicely. Let's just get quickly back before somebody else hits the scales on the Tony versus Chandler conversation. Lots of fans would like to see that as and when. Tony said December, maybe January is a perfect time for that to go and happen. Dan, regarding Chandler, coming in from a different franchise, he was the first reserve for the Khabib Gaethje fight. There's no point in him having a little tune-up, is there? There's no point in him having something with someone further down the pecking order in the UFC. He's come here for UFC gold. He's highly ranked and highly regarded as a mixed martial artist away from the UFC. He's got to get in with the Sharks straight away. and there isn't one better than Tony Ferguson to welcome him to the UFC.
No, there isn't, because one win against someone like Tony Ferguson gives you status immediately in the division, and not only amongst the fans, who know what Tony's capable of, but also amongst the other fighters who know how difficult Tony is to deal with. The thing is with Michael Chandler, he's got a good wrestling game. He's a well-conditioned athlete that's going to be quite prepared to go 5 rounds if needed. And I think, what he's going to have to do with Tony Ferguson is try and control some of that chaos. I mean, it's a difficult first fight for him in the UFC. He'd probably want someone a bit more traditional, someone, like an Iaquinta would be a much easier fight for him, because you kind of know what you're getting with Iaquinta. You know what his weapons are. Whereas Tony Ferguson, especially coming in off a loss, you don't know whether you're going to get, a much more enhanced version of Tony Ferguson that's even more chaotic than he was before. Really feeling like he needs to prove himself, especially against the new fish in the pond. But at the same time, the position that they're putting him on the card, and the opportunities that Michael Chandler's getting, I think it also is an insight into what his value is, how much he's being paid. Because if he was getting paid any less, he'd be fighting lower ranked fighters, because it wouldn't be quite as much of a financial risk. He's thrown in there at the top because he's valuable to the UFC, both financially and marketably. Like that's why they're putting him in. That's why he was the reserve for Khabib against Gaethje. Of all the other fighters you could have put in there, there's plenty of fighters that have been proven in the UFC lightweight division. The UFC matchmakers and Dana White, they know what Chandler's capable of and what he's worth. And it's only going to be a Tony Ferguson kind of fight to introduce him to the fans, to really position him in the rankings where he deserves to be.
Hype for it, man. Let's fingers crossed they can get that fight made. And if that is co-main on Fight Island to Conor and Dustin, I'll tell you something, Nick Peet might not even make the Jexies. We might have to do some work that week, boys. You know what I
mean? Conor has actually just tweeted a minute ago, and he's actually replied to some video footage of a footballer in the Arabian Gulf League in the UAE, Billy strutting after scoring a goal. And Conor has reposted with the reply, "See you guys soon. We going to Fight Island, baby."
There you go. Tell you something.
Confirmation I need. Let's get that factor 10 out.
Factor 10. Have you heard? I need factor 50 for this ball patch, mate. Come on, son. Right, let's get some more questions, shall we? Loads of people interacting with the show as we're waiting for Lipsky and Perry still to weigh in. Everybody else is on weight. We've got a title fight in both the men's and women's flyweight division at UFC 255. 1 o'clock prelims get underway on BT Sport 1, and 3 o'clock is when the main card gets underway. I'll give you more information on that a little bit later on. Right, bit more of a general conversation. Who is the next UFC superstar? Nick Peet's got a bit of a track record for this, Dan. He thinks he's the man when it comes to identifying that talent that nobody has seen before, because he keeps reminding us about Israel Adesanya. What were it when you saw him in his nappies when he was about 4 years of age? Was it, Nick? Is that when you saw him?
Anyway. Yeah, this is more challenging. This is a UK UFC superstar.
Go for it.
Nice.
Next UK UFC superstar. Like it, Nick. Here's your challenge.
Easy peasy. All day, every day. The first ever UFC heavyweight champion will be happening soon. It is Tom Aspinall. The guy has absolutely got everything. Fast hands, fast feet. He does stuff that no other heavyweight can do. And so far, we've seen it. Look at his career so far. All first round finishes. He is the real deal. Believe me, we've seen him twice in the UFC so far. We're going to see him again inside the next few months, I'm sure. Hold on to your hats. Jump on the gravy train. We're going right to the top. Tom Aspinall is the standout prospect in UK MMA, and he's already in the UFC.
Nice. Dan, what have you got for us, mate?
Well, I'll give you some that don't share a postcode with Nick Peet, shall I? Just to kind of balance the show
or a
out.
house. I actually thought Tom Aspinall was living with him at one point.
I'll give you two. Obviously, the one is an obvious one. It's Jack Shaw. He's on a real streak. He's a talented individual. The setup around him, he's trained by his father. He's got his gym. They own the gym. It's their own space. It's one of the best facilities in the UK, Shaw MMA. They've got a whole crew of guys around, and they've got Brett Johns, who's just crossed over to another big promotion, who's a great sparring partner, training partner for him. And the other one, a young lady that just got a win very recently, Corey McKenna. Right at the very beginning of her career, already showing loads and loads of potential. So they're the two obvious ones at the moment. And then if we're if we're focusing on people outside of the UFC, I'm just going to give Adam Amasinghe a shout. We're going to be seeing him very, very soon. He's got a fight coming up on Cage Warriors again soon, but I'm also hearing about other potential exciting opportunities for him. So keep an eye on him as well.
Absolutely. I want to throw in Mason Jones, who's doing extremely well in Cage Warriors. He's got to have a little bit of a shout as well. And I know that he's been very vocal on social media. Our old mate, who was obviously on the Contender Series, didn't get himself a UFC contract. He hasn't fought all year. He will be back. Brendan Loughnane. I'm telling you now, boys, he's going to be back. He'll be back at some point and he'll be in some entertaining fights and we'll all have a wicked ride with that. Shall we get some more questions, boys? Nick, here's one for you. How much rent are you charging Tom Aspinall at your house? No, sorry, that doesn't say that. Nick, who would you rather? What's that say?
Who was fit? Who would you rather was fit? Darren Till or Virgil van Dijk?
Sorry, mate. My eyes are poor there. Obviously, for those that don't know, Virgil van Dijk being a footballer for the Liverpool football team, just in case you're not into it whatsoever. Nick is a big Liverpool fan. He's out injured at the moment. He's the talisman of the Liverpool team. Darren Till or Virgil van Dijk? Who do you love more?
Listen, right now, I'm devastated Till's not fit because I think right now he's the kind of name that can come through. And we talked about it earlier. Sometimes you don't get title opportunities because you're the guy banging on the door. You're the guy that strung all the wins together. You get title opportunities because you're a superstar and because you make a lot of noise and because it makes sense to the UFC to pull you out and put you in. And if Darren Till had come through his last fight, and certainly if he'd have been sensational against Hermansson at the back end of the year, I think the pull for Adesanya to move up a weight division rather than stick around and take on big names at middleweight, I think that completely diminishes. I think Till versus Adesanya is a massive fight for the middleweight division, massive fight for the UFC. Does huge numbers on every nation on this planet, and I think they're hoping they can build that one. So for that reason, I am devastated that Till isn't fit because I just think 1-2 big wins. Till get pushed straight in for a title shot. Adesanya wants it. Till certainly wants it. So I think we've kind of missed out there on a fight that could have happened early in 2021 that, all being well, if Till can get those wins back, is more than likely going to be 12 months away now. But then that doesn't come away from the fact that I'm absolutely devastated that Virgil van Dijk's injured. But what it will do is make Liverpool winning the title this year even more impressive, and we can celebrate that even bigger.
Listen, if Darren Till was fit, mate, he'd be playing centre-half for Liverpool. That's how much the dire straits you're in at the moment. Anyway, just on Darren Till, Dan, how impressed are you actually with the decision that he's made? I saw an interview with him this week. I think he was speaking to Ariel about making a mature decision because he can see that he's on the cusp of something. He is well talked about. He is well loved within the UFC. Israel Adesanya does want the fight. Nick is right. But he's got to put some wins together in order to earn that fight, I think, not just from a fan's perspective, but maybe from a company perspective as well. He could have gone ahead. He could have fought against Jack Hermansson. But with an injury like that, you don't want to be taking on a killer like Jack Hermansson less than 50%, do you? You want to be in there in your best physical, to give your best physical performance. He made a mature decision this week, pulling out of that fight and recalibrating for 2021.
Yeah, I think it's a smart thing to do. Yeah, I mean, we all forget how young Darren Till is because of how much ground he's already covered since his UFC debut. The thing is with these kind of situations and injuries like this is, even if he'd have stepped in there and got a win over Jack Hermansson, he's not setting himself up for a long career, for a good win streak, for a title fight and a title defense and all of that kind of stuff. He needs to be prepared to put a good win streak together. When he steps in there and proves himself, he's in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment, and I think he's making the most of that by getting himself fit and healthy. Because I think he knows himself. What's a few months at his age, to be strong enough to go on a good win streak and maybe be the champion of the division for a while. It's the better thing to do right now, and I'm glad that he's made that decision.
We've got about 40 minutes remaining of the UFC 255 weigh-in. Everybody bar two has hit the scales We've had no missed weight so far. We've got a title fight in the men's flyweight. We've got a title fight in the women's flyweight. Men and co-men done and dusted. They're off having the breakfast, enjoying themselves. The two fighters that we're waiting for is Ariane Lipski, and we're also waiting for Mike Perry. You will have seen the social media post that he has been sticking out over the last few hours or so, saying that he was struggling to make 170. Which kind of brought in the whole conversation is he being serious? Is he trolling his all? Where is Mike Perry at? Especially 10 days ago when he's posting on his Instagram account, necking a burger and eating pizza. It's going to be interesting to see what happens now over the next 40 minutes. Is he going to stroll in with a minute to go with the burger in his hand and hit that scale comfortably under the 170 welterweight limit? Or is he legitimately going to be in a lot of trouble as he prepares for his fight with the Dirty Bird, Tim Means? That's his nickname, by the way. That's not just me giving him abuse. That's his legit nickname. Anyway, that's all still to play out here on the BT Sport YouTube channel. So make sure you stick with us. We're not going anywhere. We're going to keep you abreast of everything because that is a big story. Mike Perry weighing in. Let's see if he does make that welterweight for the big fight tomorrow night at UFC 255. Just a little bit on the broadcast tomorrow, because I know that you're excited about the fights. 1 a.m. BT Sport 1. That's when the prelims get underway. Rodriguez versus Dolby will kick us off. 3 a.m. in the morning. It's the big Scot himself, Paul Craig, Shogun, in the rematch, getting us underway on that main card, of which will, of course, be culminated by the co-main and main events, where the women's flyweight title and men's flyweight title will be contested. Should be a cracking night of fights, so make sure you come and join us on BT Sports. Now then, boys, if you could pick the new tough coaches, the Ultimate Fighter coaches, who would you choose? Nick, you're not answering this. You're not saying Till and Adesanya, right? So, Dan, I'm coming to you. Who would you go for the new tough coaches?
I think Adesanya and Darren Till would be pretty good.
Oh, stop it!
In all truth, though, they would. They'd be hilarious.
Nick, is there any other actual viable contenders for that? I don't think there is there?
Adesanya and Jones.
Yeah, exactly. Adesanya and John Jones is exactly what I was just going to say. You know, that would be absolutely sensational, even if we weren't going to get that matchup straight away, because looking at his social media at the moment, John Jones is a big boy. He's coming my neck of the woods. He's 240 plus. So,
good lighting. It was good lighting, that. Good lighting.
Is that what it was? That's what I say as well, yeah. I think Adesanya versus Jones, even if there isn't, that just makes absolute sense to me right now. You know, I think that would be absolutely hilarious. And then the other one, of course, come on. If Conor comes through against Dustin, Conor and Khabib as coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, Conor's crew and Khabib's crew, we've got a bit of history. Let's do it.
A bit of history? A bit of history?
No
Just
chance.
get rid of all the dollies. Just get rid of every dolly in the tough training centre and we'll be okay.
Jeez, man. Listen, you just mentioned Jones there, and everybody's seen the social media pictures, but if you haven't seen the social media pictures, shall we have a look? Because he's looking massive. Look at that fella.
Hey,
damn, look at that.
Is the next heavyweight champion right there.
I think so. I think so. I mean, you've got to think, like, he's been working to keep his weight stable at 205. You know, he's probably been walking around at 235, 240 anyway. You know, like keeping his weight under control at that weight and not lifting too heavy and eating too much so he can still make 205. Now, without that restriction, like he's comfortable to be strong and healthy. You know, he's going to come in at, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if he comes in heavier than Stipe. Like Stipe was what, 232 in his last weigh-in against Cormier. Like Jones will come in heavier than him, and he'll look bigger as well because he's got that height and reach advantage. You got to think, 84.5-inch reach. That's massive, massive. He's going to be scary at heavyweight, absolutely.
Look at Nick now, right? Nick's loving this because he knows that we're going to make another pound-for-pound show talking about the greatest of all time, and now he's going to be able to rubber stamp it if that fella turns up at heavyweight.
Exactly. I can just say, I told you so once again, because John Jones, that's all he's got to do now is get to heavyweight, do a number on Stipe, become the heavyweight champion. Conversation over for me. Conversation is done. And I'm looking at pictures like that, and I'm thinking, wow, this is John Jones 2.0. This is what we've been waiting for so long. For me, he went stale at light heavyweight. That's why his fights became close towards the end. That's why guys who couldn't live with him 5 years previous were suddenly pushing John Jones and were winning rounds against him. for me, John Jones got stale. This is a fresh start, and it's also the fear factor. Whenever I spoke to John Jones previously, I'd always say that move to heavyweight, you've got the size, you've got the reach, and he was like, no, these guys are too thick. I'm lean. Me and Gustafsson may be taller than them, but these guys are too thick. There's too much chest on them. There's too big arms. Boom. Look at the chest and the arms on my boy right now. Yes, sir. We ready. We're getting ready.
Anybody would think you're his strength and conditioning coach, mate. Look at you.
I'm his dietitian. Loads of donuts.
Yeah. There you go, man. There you go. We're all excited about John Jones at heavyweight. There's no question about that. Just a quick one. Whilst we've got a tiny little bit of time, because we've seen over the last 24, 48 hours, the official announcement. I know that Dana kind of said this straight after Anderson Silva's last fight, but we've seen over the last 24, 48 hours that the UFC now have released Anderson Silva. I hope that Anderson Silva, away from the UFC, can find some type of peace if he wants to keep competing. I'm sure there's some type of level of competition that would be attractive for fans to watch Anderson Silva participate in. But he's given us a hell of a ride. Let's be honest. Dan, your favourite Anderson Silva moment from down the years?
Oh, wow. I mean,
we've got half an hour, mate. We've got half an hour.
Okay.
We've got time. You can.
I mean, the thing is, it's difficult not to pick the Bisping fight because it was such a back and forth one, and being in such close proximity to it as well, that was a special one. But for me, I think it's got to be the Vitor Belfort knockout. Just for who Vitor Belfort is and was, and how lethal he is, and just to see him completely frozen against Anderson Silva and bite hard on a fake. To really, we broke it down. It was on a UFC breakdown before the Michael Bisping fight, and we really broke it down. And you can see the level change of his eye line when he was looking at the lead leg of Vitor Belfort to make him think that a low kick was coming, and then as the toes are hitting Vitor Belfort in the face, he's blocking the inside low kick. I mean, it's just spectacular to be able to play a game that deep and that well against someone like Vitor Belfort. It's one thing to do it against someone on a lower level show, but to do it against someone with the pedigree of Belfort, it's even more impressive to me. That one absolutely stands out.
I know Dan was calling that fight against Michael Bisping at UFC London, but Nick, you were there, octagon side. What a night, man! What a night!
Just absolutely incredible, and just one of the greatest moments I've seen witnessing mixed martial arts from cage side. And the devastating thing is, Anderson Silva, absolutely one of the greatest that's ever done it. And as Dan's pointed, so many highlight reels, the Tony Freukland elbow long before he got in the UFC, the manner in which he knocked out Forrest Griffin in the first round, the manner in which he, battered and destroyed Rich Franklin and became middleweight champion. There's just so many golden moments, and I'm just heartbroken because I've seen Anderson Silva fight live 3 times and he's lost 3 times. I've never seen him win. I'm devastated. I must be like his bad penny or something. So that's my biggest takeaway. That's my biggest heartbreak, is that I never got to see one of the greatest of all time actually win a fight. But you're right. That night in London was unbelievable. I was there the night when Chris Weidman beat him twice as well. I was ringside on both those occasions. Absolutely incredible occasions. And just that ring walk, just Anderson Silva walking out the way he did, just everything about it was just synonymous of the Spider, and truly one of the greatest that's ever done it in the sport. Unfortunately, yes, a little bit like Roy Jones Jr. in boxing, gone on a little bit too long, way too long. Lost a lot of fights now. Maybe that's diminished or taken away. But I think historically, in 5, 10, 15 years' time, when Anderson's well and truly retired and we're able to move on from this stage of his career, similar to maybe a Mike Tyson-esque, where we can look back and go, you know what? The stuff he was doing, he was way ahead of the curve, man. Anderson Silva was doing stuff inside the octagon that people could only dream of, and yes, the sport's jumped forward again now, but at the time, he was the guy pushing the ceiling on what athletes could actually do in mixed martial arts. And for that, we should always be grateful of the career that he had.
No, absolutely, in the UFC. And I like the way that you've been optimistic there in 5, 10 years' time when he's officially properly retired. Not a chance. It's Anderson Silva. He'll still be doing this when he's 50-odd years of age, mate. I'm telling you, in some way, shape or form. He's given us so many highlight reel knockouts, some sensational nights, and we wish him well with whatever he does next in his career, but it won't be with the UFC, of course. Now, if you're just joining us here for the UFC 255 official weigh-ins, we've got around about half an hour remaining on the clock. And we're waiting for two fighters, one of which is Ariane Lipski. She's taking on Valentina Chefchenko. Shevchenko weighed in earlier on, and she's currently rehydrating. But Lipski, we are still waiting for her. And we're also waiting for Mike Perry. You've seen the social media interaction from Mike Perry. He said he was struggling hitting 170. Do you take him seriously? Do you not take him seriously? Is he trolling us all? Well, in half an hour, we're going to find out where he is at. Tim Means has weighed in, his opponent for the night in that welterweight contest. He's done and dusted. We're just waiting for those two fighters, Lipski and Perry. Everybody else is through. The women's co-main event for the flyweight title, Shevchenko and Maia weighed in on the nose, job done. They're out and done. And the main event between Deiveson Figueiredo and Alex Perez, again, both on the money. The title is on the line. So you've got two title fights. Everything else is signed, sealed, and delivered by the two fights that we've mentioned there involving Lipski and Perry. Now, seeing that we've got half an hour left, let's get back to the old social media, because I know that you're throwing loads of questions our way at BT Sport UFC. You can use the hashtag as well, Open Mat. This is a live show. You can interact with us as we are going along, as we're waiting for these final two fighters to come and join us. And we mentioned in a moment or two ago, weren't we, about the Ultimate Fighter and various people that could get involved becoming the captains of these two teams. We didn't mention Masvidal and Colby, boys. It's there on the screen. Brilliant from Kieran. Masvidal and Colby, Dan. What do you reckon?
Yeah. No, that would be gold. That would be absolute gold. I just feel like that would be Masvidal running rings around Colby Covington, who just won't be able to keep up with the speed and the mind of Masvidal. Like he's a career time trash talker, is Masvidal, whereas Colby, this is a character that he plays, and I don't think his brain works quite as quickly as Masvidal. So it'd be a fascinating one. It'd be really, really hilarious, but I think Masvidal runs rings around him, to be honest.
What about the fight, Nick? Masvidal Colby, because that's an interesting matchup given where they're at right now in their careers.
It's a brilliant fight. It's incredible. I think Colby wants to they both want to get the performances back against Kamaru Usman. Colby was absolutely brilliant against Usman. It was a real battle of attrition. And he gave as good as he got. Unfortunately, he ran out of gas right at the end, but he gave as good as he got. But whereas the Masvidal performance, that was just complete and utter dominance, really, from Usman. He controlled that fight pretty much from start to finish. So I think Colby takes a lot of confidence into a fight with Masvidal. But Dan's right. Masvidal's 3 or 4 steps ahead when it comes to the psychological game. And if that Usman performance, and the fact that he took it at late notice, I'd like to think that won't have impacted on Masvidal too much, because he was the standout fighter of 2019, and I think he can get back there again if he can get a big performance against Colby Covington. But for me, that's a 50-50 fight. It's a fight of two very contrasting styles. But if Colby can get his game going, he can make it a really uncomfortable night for Jorge Masvidal. And likewise, if Masvidal can get back into the groove like he was against Nate Diaz, I know it's a different style of fight entirely, but if he can get into that kind of flow state, then he could light Colby Covington up as well. So brilliant shout. I can't believe thanks for Kieran for saving the day there, because we'd have got some stick on social media for not mentioning that as probably the best pick for a tough.
Yeah, well done, Kieran. Top stuff, my man. Let's get some more questions, shall we? As I keep saying, you can interact via the hashtag OpenMat. And hang on a minute. He can't have a question, can he?
No, can't give him a question. Can I have a question? Question for Dan. Can I give my question to Dan? And this is a serious question.
Hang on a minute. You can't listen. I know we're taking the mic, just for people that don't know who Gary Donald is. Gary's our camera guy. Yeah, he's one of our chief editors of. He's not having a question, is he not? Let him have his question, because he'll only give me the abuse. He won't kick off with you two because you're bigger than him, right? He'll only come after me, right? So here we go. Can you speak to the cojones on Paul Felder fighting and commentating this past week? For those that don't know too much about this, firstly, where have you been? Living under a rock. Felder took a fight on 5 days' notice. We saw him in the main event last weekend against Rafael dos Anjos. And then we saw him commentating on the Dana White Contender Series, the final one of the series, on Tuesday night. So he was in the Octagon on Saturday, and then back in the same arena to commentate on Fights on the Tuesday. Dan, that's something right out of your street. You were getting absolutely jacked up on this, weren't you, over the weekend? You're going, yeah, that's my guy.
I love it. It just, I mean, you know what Paul Felder's like. Inside the octagon, outside the octagon, he's full of character. He's full of energy. I mean, when we were out in Fight Island, to be honest, when I saw that he'd taken the fight on short notice, it didn't really surprise me because he was never off a bike or out of a swimming pool in Fight Island. It was like all of a sudden he'd become a triathlete. So he was in great shape going into it, and he loves a scrap. The best thing about it for me is that he looks reinvigorated, and that was the question coming out of the Hooker fight: is does he, is he really in love with it as much as he needs to be to keep putting himself on the line like he does in his fights? And even in his post-fight interview, like he was still fired up. After 5 rounds with RDA, he was still fired up, ready to go. I'm a big fan of Felder. I like working with him. I like watching him, and commentating on his fights is very fun as well, if not a bit challenging at times.
Mate, it was a great post-fight interview, no doubt about it. Go on then, Nick. I can see you smiling, right? Now, I'm going to apologise to anybody watching this. Right? Whatever, I don't know what's coming out of his mouth now with this question to Dan Hardy, right? He's lined something up. Go for it. Go on. It's all yours.
This is a legit question, not some daft question that Gary sent in. This is a legit question about why we're here right now. And I want to ask Dan, who's made weight, dozens and dozens of times. I'm just reading back there to Mike Perry's tweet from 6 hours ago. And if it's legit, how feasible this is. Because 6 hours ago, Dan, he said, I am 6 pounds over. And then word to the motion of he's never going to do it. He can't do it. He can't make weight. 6 pounds over with 5 hours before you're due on the scales does seem like an awful lot of weight to me.
I don't think so. Honestly, I think he could do it. It's only a lot of weight if he's already tried cutting some weight and he stopped sweating. That's really where the issue is. Like 6 pounds is a feasible amount to lose for a fighter in a few hours. It all depends on their current state of hydration, whether they're in shape. I mean, the thing is, Mike Perry's not the biggest of welterweights. He's not. He's heavily muscled, but the likelihood is if Mike Perry's going to miss weight, it's because he's had a lack of discipline. And my concern is that he's got 2 people in his corner that are not a disciplinary voice. They're both there, like following Mike Perry into battle. He's the one he's the veteran. He's the one that's been there before. Exactly. Like at no point is anybody going to say that, Mike, should you be having a fry up for breakfast today because you're weighing in tomorrow? Because Mike Perry's going to be like, no, it's all good. It's all good. I do this every time. That's my concern. Is it shows a potential lack of discipline. 6 pounds is not too much, especially if he's not already started his weight cut. But what that tells me is that he was already cutting a lot. He got to 5 or 6 hours out, realized he still had a lot of weight to go, and he'd already stopped sweating. And in that case, he's probably cutting 15 or 20 pounds, which sounds more likely to me.
I saw his media day yesterday, and he was doing like the round robin with loads of the world's media, and he mentioned 20 pounds. He mentioned that's the amount that he was looking to cut. But as I keep referring back to the social media post last week where he's munching on a burger, making jokes about making weight, eating pizza and all that type of stuff. And that's all well and good. You can post that type of stuff to get the fans hyped, but you've got to make weight. You've got to come in on the day and make weight. If you miss weight now, then you just look daft from last week. And like you've said, it brings up that question of discipline and where he's currently at, not only in his fight career, but also in his life. And I'm sure we're going to find that out in the next 20 minutes because he and Ariane Lipski are the only people that haven't weighed in. Everybody else has made weight. We've got a title fight with the men's flyweight. We've got a title fight with the women's flyweight. Men and co-men are on. Every other fight is on, bar the 2 that I've just mentioned there involving Ariane Lipski and Mike Perry. Hopefully in the next 20 minutes, we'll see both of those on the scales, healthy, on weight, and we can move ahead with UFC 255. Let's get back to social media because we're getting lots of tweets, texts, interactions. Who do you want to see? Oh, this is a good one. Who sent this in? Jason, you know your MMA, Jess. This is a good question, pal. Who do you want to see Arnold Allen fight next? All right. I feel like he doesn't get mentioned enough as a top featherweight. You're absolutely bang on, pal. You're absolutely bang on. Dan, I'll come to you. You've covered all his career so far. Arnold Allen is a sensational fighter, but he's just not getting. He doesn't get the love, does he, from the wider media, I suppose.
No, he doesn't. No, I mean he's a quiet individual. You know, although he's a very talented individual, he's not necessarily the loudest, most outspoken. And I think that does do him a bit of disservice to an extent because he is very capable. I mean, I'm just looking at the rankings now. He's currently sitting at number 8 in the rankings. You know, and I'm looking at the people above him. I mean, you know, one good one that stands out. I mean, Calvin Kattar's only a few places above him, and he's got a big fight against Max Holloway. Chan Sung Jun, the Korean Zombie's coming off a loss. Like, there's only a few places between the two of them. Like, getting Arnold Allen in there against the Korean Zombie, who's coming off a loss, who also needs to pick up a win, that might be the opportunity that he needs. You know, there's not going to be any trash talking between the two because the Korean Zombie doesn't speak any English, and Arnold Allen doesn't trash talk anyway. So that's
I thought you were going to say Arnold Allen doesn't speak any English either. Then.
You know what I mean? It would be focused primarily on the fight, and it would be a fun one because Arnold Allen's great conditioning, loves scrambles, you know, good neck attacks, good boxing as well, good head movement. I think it would be it'd be a case of two guys that rely on, you know, hand speed and power and head movement that have also got great submission scrambles if they need them. I think that might be the fight that Arnold Allen should get next. Korean Zombie, how about that one?
Yeah. Dan's right, Nick, innit? Arnold Allen is just that one high-profile name away from breaking out with the rest of the world. I mean, we love him here in the UK. It's just that one profile name just to set his career on fire.
Yeah, we thought he got it with the Gil Melendez fight, of course, you know, and, you know, his dominance against Gil Melendez. And you thought, right, here we go now. And he was supposed to fight Josh Emmett, who's still ranked above him in the rankings at the start of this year. Emmett's pulled out of the fight, so he ended up fighting Nick Lentz. And then last week, or the start of this month, 2 weeks ago, he was supposed to fight Jeremy Stephens, who's also ranked above him. So it's not for the want of trying. The UFC are trying to match him with guys above him. But for one reason or another, the stars just aren't aligning. And part of that maybe is by the fact that Arnold Allen is a super dangerous guy. He's high risk and low reward for anybody ranked above him. Right, but also it may just be a little bit of unfortunate circumstances as well. But you're right, he's a superstar.
Here we go. Here we go.
Kicks him out of breakfast.
Look at him. He's absolutely mugged us all off here.
$175.5.
What?
The official weight for Platinum Mike.
He's mugged you off.
He's a mess. My goodness. 175.5.
He's 4.5 pounds over. Oh dear, just as we expected and just as we feared. He has really struggled to make the weight. Having no experience in his corner has come back to bite him already. And now he's in big trouble because Tim Means will probably take it out on him tomorrow.
I can't believe that. I cannot believe that.
You said earlier.
I can't believe that you can't believe that.
Exactly. You said earlier, I don't think Mike Perry will make a fool of himself. Do you know Mike Perry is? He's always making a fool of himself. I was expecting that. In fact, I wasn't even expecting him to weigh in. Bonkers.
Mate, I'm angry now. That is just total disrespect to the contract that he has shook on, written and signed with Tim Means. That's like, Nick, you say this all the time. Missing weight and not making weight are two totally different things. That man just then could not be bothered to make weight.
We didn't make weight. I think you're being a bit harsh. You're right, though. There's a difference between missing weight and failing to make weight. And for me, Mike Perry has just failed to make weight. There's no way he was making that weight. He knew 6 hours ago when he had 6 pounds to go and he couldn't sweat anymore.
He knew last week when he was eating burgers, mate.
He knew last week when he was eating burgers. He knew yesterday when he was talking about having to cut 20 pounds that he was up against it. He obviously hasn't got anyone with any kind of weight cutting skills in his corner to help him. So you're right, he hasn't missed weight. He's failed to make weight. For that reason, now he'll lose 20% of his pace over to Tim Means. But also it's like, you know, he's probably just tortured himself for the last few hours to get somewhere near 170, failed, and now he's got to go into a very dangerous fight against Tim Means tomorrow night, less than 100% for me.
Wow. Dan, what's your thoughts on that? What? I mean, I'm speechless, mate. I'm absolutely speechless.
Why? Did you really expect them? Come on.
Yeah,
No,
I didn't
I think I'm
expect much
speechless.
more.
I'm speechless at the fact that someone's been so daft and so disrespectful.
It's Mike Perry. It's Mike Perry.
Yeah, but even so, man, I just hold the UFC to a higher regard, and this is mad, absolutely mad that we're in this situation with him.
The good thing is that at least it was only 4.5 pounds, which means that he can still fight in Nevada. If it was over 5, they would have taken him out the fight by default.
And maybe that's why, Dan. Maybe that's why it's taken an hour and 45 minutes, because they've known that backstage and they've said to him, no, you've got to get inside this weight differential. Otherwise, we've got to pull the fight. So that's probably, he probably knew 6 hours ago. He's probably thought, right, forget it. When they put those tweets out, he's probably thought, forget it. I'm £6 over, it's never going to happen. And maybe, no, you've got to, otherwise the fight ain't going to happen. If you want to get paid, if you want to fight, you've got to get inside £5. He's managed to do that. The fight will go ahead. But in what state of mind is Mike Perry right now? All Tim Mean's got to do for me is get through that first round, and it's bread and butter.
You know what? If you're a fighter, whether you're close to making weight or not, in the last couple of weeks before you fight, don't post any photos of you with food, because it's always going to come back to haunt you if you miss weight. I mean, how often do we hear tiramisu coming up? Exactly. You know what I mean? It's like it'll come back to haunt you. It's an unfortunate situation, but it shows that things in the Mike Perry camp are in disarray. I mean, there isn't really a Mike Perry camp. I saw Alex Nicholson holding pads for him the other day. It looked like he'd never put on a pair of pads in his life, let alone fought in the UFC. Like, he's got his missus in his corner. He's got his mate in his corner who's never done any MMA. Like, there was a question he was asked the other day of, so, is you the friend that's cornering you from the MMA world? And he was like, oh, well, I mean, he is now. This is what I do. I open doors for people. Like, no. You're way off. But he's Mike Perry. He's got God's gift tattooed across his stomach. You can't expect a great deal more. I feel like he's already overachieving as it is by being in the UFC. I just love watching him. I mean, it's like a real life Jerry Springer show unfolding in front of our eyes, isn't it? I wish him the best, and I enjoy his fights. But I am surprised that you're surprised that he missed weight, Adam.
Fair enough. He's done me. He's done me. So there you have it. Mike Perry, the only one so far to miss weight. 175 pounds he weighed in for his welterweight contest with Tim Means. Tim Means hit weight earlier on. We're waiting for one fighter at these official UFC 255 weigh-ins. Ariane Lipski. We've got just over 10 minutes for her to hit the scales. Everybody else is done and dusted. We've got a main event where we've got the men's flyweight title on the line. We've got a co-main event where the women's flyweight title is on the line. 2 stellar fights, both on weight. Can't wait for that action. Like I said, Mike Perry is the only one so far to have missed weight. Honestly, lads, he's done me. He's absolutely thrown me all over the place here. I'm thinking to myself, he was mugging us. But you're right in what you said, Dan, regarding the burger posting last week. Why do that? You've just set yourself up for a massive fall. There's going to be a huge backlash. Social media is going to be full of Mike Perry memes right now, I promise you. Let's get back to social media whilst we're talking about it, because loads of people are... we've got a boxing question, have we? Okay. Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., who wins? Are you talking now in their 50s, or are you talking then in their primes? What are we talking? We'll go with now in their 50s. Nick, you can have this one first, because this is, of course, part of the BT Sport family. This is where you can watch this fight. Tyson versus Jones Jr. Who wins it?
I just hope they both come through it safely and don't get too hurt. They're both 50-odd-year-old men. They shouldn't really be boxing anyway. Hopefully they raise a ton of money for charity. I see this fight a bit like Masters football. Let's just tune in and enjoy it, and enjoy the fun of it all, the chaos of it all, and hope that nobody gets carried away and lays the other one out catatonic. It's been 15 years. They were both finished 15 years ago. The good thing is they're fighting each other. 2 50-year-old men are fighting each other. Let's just enjoy it for what it is and hope that nobody gets too hurt. But if you want to see Mike Tyson and Roy Jones at their pomp, at their prime, then, search on YouTube or something. But it's a fun one. I just hope no one gets seriously hurt, to be totally honest with you.
Dan, back in the day, when you were a young whippersnapper, dreaming of the fight game and learning your craft, how much of an influence was Mike Tyson on you?
Oh, massive. But I mean, both of these guys were, to be honest, at different times for different reasons. I mean, the presence that Mike Tyson had when he fought and the fear that he would put in everybody, that permeated the crowd, which is a very difficult thing to do as a fighter, to be able to stand in the ring and for the people in the back row to be able to feel fear, from your opponent. That's a very, very unique thing to Mike Tyson, in my opinion. And then on the flip side, Roy Jones, the comfort in the pocket, his ability to be in the moment and to be able to read his opponents in ways which, only really Anderson Silva compares to in mixed martial arts. We were talking earlier about the Vitor Belfort knockout. That is a Roy Jones-esque kind of knockout for me. I used to do training sessions as Roy Jones. I'd download Run DMC. I'd write down his footwork plans from the old, countdown documentaries, and I'd get in there and I'd work in the same drills as him. Both of these guys, and obviously Tyson. The Tyson is a punching combination when I'm holding pads for people. He's permeated boxing like nobody else, aside from maybe the great Muhammad Ali. But they occupy different places. And as far as how this fight's going to go, I agree with Nick. I hope they both come through healthy and okay. But I think Mike Tyson's going to look electric. I think Mike Tyson's going to surprise everybody, because Roy Jones has been kind of cruising along. He's been slowly fading, whereas it's been a while since we've seen Mike Tyson. And I don't know. I think he's still got it. I think he's a dangerous individual.
That's what I like to hear, Dan. Go on, the boy. That's what I wanted to hear.
Rafael Cordeiro on the pads as well. There's another UFC MMA link there as well. Rafael Cordeiro is the guy that was taking Mike on the pads, that went to Tyson Ranch, that got Tyson actually hungry again, that got him feeling like, what, I could come back and do something and entertain the crowds. And no doubt Rafael's been in his ear. And Rafael Cordeiro, one of the greatest coaches in the history of mixed martial arts, the old shooter box factory, of course, now with King's MMA. It's brilliant that he's lending a part. And you know what, by the way, and Dan will back me up, Rafael Cordeiro is one of the nicest people in all of MMA as well. So it's wicked that he's able to work with an icon like Mike Tyson, just for his own career as well. It's all good and well that he worked with Vanderlei and Shogun and Anderson Silva and nowadays Kelvin Gastelum and Verdum and everybody else. But for someone like Rafael Cordeiro to work with Mike Tyson at any stage, special, man. And he will be appreciating every single moment he's with Tyson in the gym as well. So I love that side of it.
Should be a cracker, man. Listen, we are the home for fight sports here on BT Sport. Of course, we cover all the UFC for you. But as we've just been mentioning there, seeing as that the question came up on social media, we've got some sensational boxing coming up. November the 28th is the date that we're all referring to here. You've got Joyce against Dubois on BT Sport 1. And then in the early hours of the morning of the 29th, which I think it starts at 1 a.m. in the morning on BT Sport Box Office, Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. A little bit of a trip down memory lane, a sensational event. Come and get involved with it. Right, back to the UFC, shall we? UFC 255. We've got about 7 minutes of this weigh-in remaining, and we're still waiting for Ariane Lipski. The only person to miss weight so far, Mike Perry. He did it 10 minutes ago. He weighed in 175 pounds for his welterweight clash. We have 2 title fights. Everybody's on weight. It's all good, bar Mike Perry, of course. What is your guys' opinion on Izzy versus Jan? You kind of mentioned this earlier on, Nick. Dan, I'll come to you on this situation. Israel Adesanya, Jan Blachowicz. Is that the fight that you want to see at light heavyweight, or is it something else?
No, not really. I'm very much in agreement with Nick when it comes to Adesanya. I'd like to see him stay at middleweight and lock the division down. There's a lot more to be done in that weight class, and there are other contenders out there that could quite easily be stepping in, in the next couple of months. And the other thing as well is Jan's a new champion. It'd be different if that belt had been held for a period of time, whereas, Blachowicz has only just become the champion. I'd like to see him defend against a couple of the validated contenders in the division. Like Glover Teixeira is in a great place at the moment. There's a lot of guys that are like right around that point where they could also step in for a title shot as well. Bringing Adesanya up kind of holds both of the divisions up a little bit. And honestly, as much as I love Jan and I think he's an excellent light heavyweight champion, I think it's a tough fight for him. Adesanya, even as a light heavyweight, he's going to be very, very slick and very difficult to deal with.
What do you reckon, Nick? I know that you said this a little bit earlier on in the show, but Dan's touched upon it there. We've gone through 10 years in the light heavyweight division where we've had one single, one song, maybe a little bit of a fleeting throw in there with DC becoming champion as well. But one guy has kind of dominated this division. It seems right now that we've got an opportunity to have a bit of a hot potato situation and ignite the excitement back into light heavyweight. It'd be a shame to put it on hold for, 6 to 12 months? Exactly.
And that's exactly what would happen, And as you say, there's half a dozen, maybe even 8 or 9 guys at light heavyweight that I would all want to take on Jan Blachowicz or take on whoever is the new champion. I think Adesanya moving up means one thing. He's going to take on Jan Blachowicz, potentially beat Blachowicz, and then Adesanya isn't going to be calling out these 8 guys who are queuing up. He's going to be calling out John Jones. And then John Jones comes back down instead of moving up to heavyweight. And if John Jones beats Adesanya, oh my goodness, we've got John Jones as light heavyweight champion again. Everything gets delayed. It's not a good idea.
Here we go. Final fighter on the scales, Ariane Lipski.
126 even.
Oof, just makes it. Just makes it.
Ariane Lipski.
There you go. Ariane Lipski on weight at 126. Non-championship fight in the flyweight division. She's taking on Valentina Chefchenko, who weighed in earlier on championship weight at 125. That concludes all the fighters for UFC 255 weighing in. You can see it on the screen there from our colleagues over at ESPN, Beto Tomoko, just tweeting, Perry versus Means will go on. Perry is going to forfeit 30% of his purse. Expensive burger that last week, boy. Expensive burger indeed. He's the only person that weighed in today that missed weight. 175 pounds he weighed in for that welterweight clash. The big headlines, though, away from Mike Perry, are that we've got the flyweight championship. There were a little bit of worry, seeing as that Deiveson Figueiredo has missed weight. He hasn't this time. The champion weighed in. He'll be defending his belt against Alex Perez. Should be an absolute cracker main event at UFC 255. The co-main event between Valentina Chefchenko and Jennifer Maia, again, goes ahead. Maia, again, she's had weight issues, but not this time. She will be fighting for UFC gold in the co-main event. We've got a stellar card. Prelims get underway from 1 a.m. in the morning on Sunday. Make sure you come and join us for that. The main card gets underway at 3 a.m. Bit of British involvement as well with Paul Craig taking on Shogun in that rematch. Should be an absolute cracking fight. We guarantee fireworks at UFC 255. Make sure you come and join us on BT Sport.
Deiveson Figueiredo, the new flyweight champion of the world.
Valentina Chefchenko, in one word, dominant.
Just an incredible display of power, aggression, and skin.
I don't think I've ever seen a flyweight with the kind of power that you have.
And Figueiredo smells blood once again.
2 words describe Shevchenko: ice cold.
This woman is an assassin.